All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's me and co-host Pedro. Pedro, are you there too?
Yes, sir. I'm
All
here. Good
right, we're
times.
we're finally back here. This is part two. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
hear it coming through. This is part two of the November 22nd show. Part one had a system crash in it, so we're coming back to you. As I said, as Pedro and I talked about earlier, we talked about obviously the BTC, what's going on in Bitcoin and markets, and the
Justin Sun.
Justin Sun hack of two of his projects, Poloniex for $126 million and HTX exchange for another $100 million. It's $226 million for one person in about 2.5 weeks. It's an amazing record, and I'm surprised it's not actually getting more news than it is. And then, of course, we had a long discussion about CZ, but not long enough. I'm sure we'll continue it. Talked a little bit about OpenAI, and we're going to talk about that right now as well. So if you're out there listening, please join us. Join us in the comment section. Comment, share, follow, like. Let us know where you're commenting from. As Pedro says, let us know where you would like to be commenting from, and engage with us, and we'll have a nice conversation here this morning.
If I could be anywhere in the world, there'd be two places. It'd be San Diego, um, right off the beach, and what's it called? I always mess up the name. Centennia? No, it's not correct. It's the place um in Greece that has like the white houses
Oh yeah,
and like
Santorini.
Santorini.
Right.
Yes, man. Like those are the two places. Like I just, as you know, as you can see, I'm a water baby. So I love it, man. If if I could live anywhere, right? Those would be the places. But the problem is for me, I'm not a liberal guy. I mean, I don't like the government being in my business and those places, man, it's just just frustrating. But I mean, if I could, I don't know, visit, at least be like a snowbird, fly out there, buy a house, do my thing, and then bounce back. But it's difficult. It is difficult. Santorini, you know. Oh, hey, we're having me. So yeah, this is what my charts look like when I trade. Yes, yes. And then I look at the daily chart, and then these are the things that I am always seeing so that I can see what's actually going on. These are potential big buys in the market. This is the actual market buyers and sellers coming in, the actual alpha, or excuse me, delta, which is leftover buyers and sellers, and these is retracement and the percentage of the retracement.
That's
So you can
interesting.
sit, yeah, this is what I look at right now. So I've been looking at some uh, markets, and I've been trying to sit there and see kind of. I have a friend of mine. He writes code, and so we've been talking back and forth to how to how to play off some micro strategies, where you can play off these numbers coming in and out, where you get two or three ticks, nothing much, but two or three ticks, 700, 800 times a day,
Yep.
and one tick makes you a profit. So like it's just imagine making $300-400 every
Oh man, I
minute.
I remember the first time I was watching a project and I was like, "What are these weird trades?" And I looked into it and I'm like, "Oh, that's a bot of some sort." And I'm like, and it was only it cleared like $1, and I was
Yeah,
like, and I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." So I stopped paying attention to it. And then it kept going on, and I'm like, "All right, this is just getting annoying from reading it all the time." So I clicked into it, and it had at least 1,000 $1 trades a day.
yep, yeah.
That's all. I was
That
like, "That's all you need."
yeah, and they got 30 of those, 20
Right.
of those
Right.
that have different strategies that go through, and all they're looking is to get $1, $2. That's it. Like $3 or two ticks, three ticks, four ticks, and all of a sudden you have a cash machine that And it's not, and here's the thing, like it's only scalable up to a certain point. Like you can't sit there and scale this up to like $1 million a trade, right? Because all of a sudden it moves the market. Your job is, you're much more like you want to be like a bacteria. I hate to say it, but right, where you're just going in and you're kind of feeding off the market's movement, right? Like in a
Gonna be like
sense.
a bacteria. I love it.
It is it, like it, but this
A
whole entire
leech.
goal is
At
leech
least.
or a what do they call those fish that hover underneath the sharks?
Yeah.
Yeah, when the sharks go to eat, you go through and you just take bits and pieces of it,
Yep. They
right?
just get the scraps.
But there's so much scraps coming off that they can live very well, very well off of it. Um, in the same sense, it's that same idea that I look at like in the market, right? Like if you go through and play this. The biggest key is that we want to give, like what we're trying to do is develop this so that we can actually give all that money away. We want to do a for-profit, nonprofit, kind of like OpenAI, and just make it, like help people, like just absolutely help people. And as the market, the markets keep growing in Bitcoin and all these others, because right now there's hardly anybody in it, and people still make a ton of money off of it. Um, our goal is to really just help with water in places around the world, help with just people, orphans, many of the people here know that, I'm an orphan, or I was an orphan,
Right.
I was a foster kid, and I went through the system, emancipated out of the system where, I went to the military and had to kind of reorientate myself in society and stuff. But was doing some, actually, I was really interesting. Side note, I was doing some research last night about the amount of jail uh, people or incarcerated people, and I said, how many of them were actually foster kids? Because I know it's a very big portion that most people will go into jail if they're foster kids, right? At one point in time, because the thing is so traumatic for the child that it messes with their psyche and emotional stability,
Oh, I
and so they
can't even
fly out.
possibly imagine it. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it's like 80%. 80%. Here's another thing I found out. I was like, because I know that the genius population in jail is like 10%, where in the regular population it's 1%, right? Like, it's just
hey, Ted Kaczynski helping bringing up the average. Unabomber.
yeah, I mean, but it's an honest with God like statistic. And so I was looking at that and I was like, well, if 80% of the foster kids are uh, you know, or if 80% of the jailbirds were kids at one point in time, what's the average for foster kids for IQ, right? So I went through, it's like 104 to like 113. Like, and I was sitting there going like, holy crap, it's 4 points above the average. Like, that's impressive.
Oh,
Like, and what's up?
sorry. Finish what you're saying.
No, so I was just impressed. I thought, if there were just more money, I hate to say money, but more people just being involved and could help with foster care and help with that. It would actually help society because we have a huge portion of intellect that's totally emotionally jacked up and can't utilize because they're just jacked up in the head. And i.e. me. Like, I mean, it took me 10 years to really go through the emotional healing that I needed to really go through. And, I was an intelligent kid, intelligent man, but I just would fly off the handle at times and be like,
Pedro,
self-sabotage.
pull up the BNB chart, would you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ooh, what is happening? We've seen a sell-off, yeah.
And put on like the 5 minute chart or 10 minute chart or something. So there's new news today on the Binance front.
What's going on?
I don't know how I didn't see this earlier.
Oh, it's a
Uh,
racetrack down, man. We could at least come back
Actually, it
down to
came.
the
I don't know why
lows.
my page. I don't know why I didn't have this news earlier, but Binance to make a complete exit from the U.S. and to pay billions to not 4 billion to the SEC, but $3.4 billion to FinCEN, $968 million to OFAC, and then a couple other little ones too, for violations of the Bank Secrecy Act and sanctions programs. Now, yesterday, when this information broke about Binance, or 2 days ago, whenever it was, the assumption is that they get everything put back together, and they come back to the U.S. and everything's great. It was basically reported as everything is fine, just pay the fine. CZ steps down and the company moves on and comes back to the U.S. and everything's great. Today, it's a whole different candle here, a whole different ball of wax. And sadly so. I mean, this is I got to tell you, the U.S. government is getting too much. Who knew? Why do you have to pay fines to FinCEN? That it's just it's not even a regulatory agency. It's just a data tracking agency. And now you have to pay fines to them. And now you have to pay fines to OFAC, just a policy making organization. What the hell is up with that?
Oh, makes sense, because the reality is the government doesn't have money to fund these guys.
No, but my point is that if they say you pay you have to pay the General Treasury of the United States all fines, but why do all these departments? The Department of Justice should have the ability to fine people, and that's what happened with Binance and CZ. The SEC brought the civil charges, but also said, hey, this isn't just a civil lawsuit on our part. This is got to go through the Department of Justice. And they settled with the DOJ, actually, that $4 billion to settle all the criminal charges and all that type of stuff.
Do you know what the conviction rate is for the DOJ?
It's like 95%.
Dude, yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy crap. Like,
I lost my earphone here.
It's all right.
I know. You're
proven innocent, right? But you start off guilty. Like, it's almost like you don't even have a choice. It's
that's different though. In local state and local prosecutions, they take all cases. They take all cases. The feds don't. The feds only take cases they can win, or not can win. No, they're going to win, and they only lose cases because they screwed it up, or they had something absolutely wrong that they didn't see about that. So that's why it's because if you're a federal prosecutor and you lose a case, your career is over. You're done. Whereas if you're a state or local prosecutor and it's like 60-40, you're like, win 6, lose 4. You're like, hey, that's pretty good. But that's why you go and look at law firms, and they're littered, absolutely littered with former prosecutors. And that's because they either, I'm not going to be exactly correct, but basically an agency dedicates a budget to investigate things, and they don't get any return on it. They don't get any charges or anything like that. That investigator, that attorney, whatever, their career is limited, and so they retire early and go work for a law firm. That's how that works, and so they don't take anything that they're not going to. So when you get charged by the feds, you're toast. And they lose things. The SEC's been losing things lately because they've had a bad strategy, and they've taken good cases that they thought they had, and they've lost a few. But let's go over to the criminal courts. If you get arrested by the feds for something, you're toast. It's just, let's plead it out the best I can.
Well, that's why CZ is sitting there going like, I'm just gonna I mean, what do you think when they brought that into the DOJ, bro? Like, do you think he was just like, dude, we can sit there and fight this, but I'm going to jail. Like, this is like they if they're going to place this in the DOJ, then there's something that we don't know, right? Like,
right.
Do you think that's why?
Well, I think once they establish the pattern of emails with people saying, hey, let's not worry about that. There's a difference between like never having the capability of running KYC and AML and doing it and going, well, we didn't know our shit we had to do it for this stuff. It's all new. And then the other hand is we knew we had to do it, but there's all these emails saying don't do it because it'll ruin some of our biggest market makers. or our biggest clients. And so I think once the government said, look, we can prosecute you here, we can put a red notice out for you, and you won't be able to travel anywhere. You'll have to stay in some small island somewhere, and we'll seize all your money and everything. Or you can just be done with this. And then it's easy. Took the I'm done. And I personally think it's a giant overreach on behalf of the United States government. We're the world's police when people call us and say, hey, we need your aircraft carriers. Our country's being invaded. Yeah. But we're not the world's police for financial transactions all over the world. You know, it is good. I mean, on one hand, we do, by prosecuting people like this, it puts the fear of God in everyone else. And we do kind of keep a small group of people from becoming basically the wealthiest criminals on the planet, or and do things like that. But our overreach is such that basically anyone in the United States or anyone in the world can be hauled in front of a federal judge for whatever the U.S. government wants. And it's not right. It's not fair. It's an overreach of the U.S. government. Drives me crazy. Literally drives me crazy.
Here's the thing, man. I mean, I was thinking about, like, potential, like, the downfall. Remember we were talking about the BRICS nation and the whole entire setup and what's actually going on.
Yeah.
We lost your screen.
Oh, hold on. I thought I had it.
There you are. But when I started really realizing the reach of America, like, and realizing its sovereignty, I sat down, I was like, holy crap. They could, if they want to, they can crush that. They can crush that currency. Like, all they got to literally say is, you know what, China, we're done. Like, we're going to build everything in Mexico and other third world countries, and we're done with you. I mean, it really is that simple, and it would just crush everything. When I really realized, like, wow, or telling Brazil, if you keep doing business with China like you're doing, we're done. Like, you
Yep.
can find another customer base. And we've done this in the past, right? So it's not unheard of for us to sit there and just do that and then find another country. And yes, our government has no problem putting its citizens in hurt for a financial gain for a political war. Like, we've seen this multiple times in history. Um, and, even though we think we have a democracy, with a constitutional, what do you call republic, it's not. It's not like, we have there are dictators here. Like, it's legit.
We
And
get manipulated a lot by a small group of people, that's for sure.
yeah, there is a group of people who sit there and run this nation. And so that's why I started realizing, yeah, they're not going to allow it. They'll let them have fun. They'll let them play. No, but there's no way that they're going to give them truly that power. There's just no way. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But I don't see it. It's almost like, all right, like when Yellen came out and literally said yesterday, if you don't play by the Fed's rules, we're going to come after you with every tool we have. Like, get in line. Like, that was, and then now CZ, like, he's like the pinnacle of crypto, right? He's like, yeah, he's our man, right? And he's like rolling over and showing his belly.
Here's
Like,
the
there's
quote
no.
from Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said Tuesday's action against Binance was the largest settlement in the department's history. I want to make sure that folks really, I'm going to do it in her voice. I want to make sure that folks really understand how unprecedented this monitorship is. We're not just going after egregious conduct, but we're also getting Binance out of the U.S. entirely. The official
Yeah.
clarified that separate exchange called Binance US, which is the operating name for Binance, is a registered money services business and therefore not affected by Binance's exit. Oh, well, Binance.com hasn't been in the US in ages.
Forever. Yeah. or at least crypto ages.
Exactly, good point. That's a good point. Binance allowed individuals associated with terrorist groups, people in North Korea and other sanctioned jurisdictions, money laundering and malicious cybersecurity act to use its platforms, it said. By failing to comply with AML and sanctions obligations, Binance enabled a range of illicit actors to transact freely on the platform. Okay, I get that. I get that. That happened. But if we all know that all of those groups a couple years ago said, hey, stop using crypto for sending us information because you can track it, and they've got us.
Track us.
They
Yeah.
figured it out. And Hamas famously put out a tweet or something that said, hey, don't send us any Bitcoin. It gets tracked. Go back to the old Hawala, methods, or send it to your buddy in Iran, and the government will send us the money and stuff like that. Because this isn't working. Because it's completely trackable. And so all of this stuff is just geared towards like 2016, 17, and 18, when these things happened. None of this, in none of the things that I read about this, does it say,
today.
but was Binance doing this today, last year, the year before, the year before that? As soon as they became a thing, they exploded out of nowhere when technically they didn't even have a home. If you remember, they were like, where are your company based? And they're like, we're based nowhere. We're on the internet. And then, the government said, no, you can't do that. And then they said, okay, since we have to be based somewhere, we have to follow local rules. So they started doing this. So all of this stuff is, I can't say that if you commit murder a few years ago, it's like, well, it was a few years ago. Well, nobody's caught me. That was 5 years ago. Who cares? He's dead. So I get it that the government's going back and prosecuting crimes, but they're promoting it like it's the greatest. The government's promoting it like it's the greatest thing ever. Like, oh my God, we stopped all this kind of stuff. They didn't stop anything. They didn't stop anything, and I don't see them going after Visa and MasterCard because credit card fraud is one of the largest funding things for terrorism also. And so I don't understand the dichotomy here where the government says, these small guys, crypto's small. Anyone who's listening to this who might catch a bit of this, or the AI picks up directing you to this part of the conversation, crypto is this big compared to any other financial instrument in the world. I mean, the corporate bonds in the U.S. are 100 times larger or 1,000 times larger.
Thousands.
The derivative markets are 10,000 times larger. The volume. Starbucks does more in transactions today than Bitcoin's going to do.
Yep.
So let's put things in perspective. And there's more fraud in those Starbucks transactions every day. Every day, which is when you just do the percentages, a 2% fraud rate or whatever it is. There's more fraud in Starbucks transactions than there is in crypto every day. And a lot of the fraud, they say, oh, it's just, those strange skimmer guys stealing your card and getting free tanks of gas. No, large part of this is organized crime. Organized crime feeds terrorist groups just like anything else. And I don't mean organized crime like the Goombas from Sicily that came to the U.S. and run the prostitution rings. I mean organized crime like organized hacking, organized cyber theft, organized ACH fraud, your direct deposit fraud, that type of stuff. Organized credit card fraud, all that kind of stuff. All that money goes to these same places too, and yet nobody's sanctioning Visa and MasterCard. Just drives you absolutely nuts. Absolutely crazy. Every time I even bring it up, I go nuts.
Let's say, right, like, because I mean, you worked in the defense area, right? You sat there, you saw how things were bought and sold in relationship to guns and in your world,
I
right?
was a
And
federal firearms dealer for a long time, and explosives licensee. I had all those licenses for work. Yeah.
what percentage would you say actually went to the terrorist groups? What I mean, because when whether you're working with the United States and or working with a terrorist group, it's still money. So would they do business with, like, let's say Hamas, or I mean, where are they getting their guns from?
Oh,
Like
easy.
obviously,
There's 1,000 people in the world that'll sell it to them. I mean, you can't. It's impossible to stop that. And not a single person in the United States or Europe or Western Europe um, will sell terrorist groups anything like zero, except clandestinely, like organized crime guys. I mean, no company would. I mean, even just to do business with a firearms company, I mean, it's like the KYC is even worse than doing it for a bank. I mean, it's drastic because they don't care about you, they care about your network where it's going to go. And the U.S. government watches over every serial number of every firearm or what weapon that gets exported. So does Europe and all these places. The ITAR requirements, the U.S. Department of Commerce requirements are very strict. The Weimar list, all that type of stuff. But there's all of Eastern Europe, in countries that are not in the EU, all of Russia, all big parts of Asia, and all of Africa that will gladly sell whomever, whatever, and maybe even not officially. I mean, there's plenty of militaries in Africa that will buy a couple of $1 million worth of Russian firearms and RPGs and weapons and things like that. Um, and the guy else just like the general will just sell them. He'll just be like, oh well, we bought $10 million. I'm selling $2 million of it to in order to up his salary and just to sell off, just in corruption. And that's why you see all the terrorist groups around the world. How many terrorist groups do they show video of that have U.S. style weapons? Modern German weapons, modern American weapons, modern British weapons. They don't
Mexico's cartel.
right. Well,
Actually,
the
no.
Mexican cartel gets them because they just drive across the border and buy them in Arizona and drive back with them. I mean, that's really easy. But most of the weapons these terrorists use are not funded by crypto and buying U.S. weapons and all this type of stuff. It's because someone in Africa sells them old Soviet arms. There are, I got to tell you, Pedro, there are stashes of arms all over the world for everybody. But the amount the Soviets left in Eastern Europe, the movie, what was it?
God of War with Nicolas Cage.
No, yeah, not that one, but War Dogs with Jonah Hill and Bradley Cooper. When they find a guy in Albania selling old stocks, or Hungary, wherever it was, that's all true. They got bunkers of that shit. I mean, there's enough old weapons built in the 50s and 60s, packed in grease, to last pretty much till the sun explodes and goes supernova. And so these are easy for terrorist groups to get these because there's always someone corrupt out there willing to sell that in those countries. But that's why our regulations work. I mean, it's so hard to do business in the defense industry. If you're exporting, it's very, very, very difficult because there's so many regulations and they work. And people agree that you should not be able to sell, weapons of war to anybody else. On the other side, I disagree that those same type of ideas should be applied to the financial system. The financial system's the basis for our life. Weapons of war are not the basis for our life. The financial system keeps us alive, keeps us our economy going. And law enforcement should do its best to root out where things go wrong. But that doesn't mean putting drastic and onerous regulations on us, on everybody. Why should I, as a citizen, have to worry about this group called FinCEN? There's nowhere in any document in the history of the United States that says a citizen has to worry about how they spend their money. Federalist Papers, United States Constitution, the Articles of Confederation before that, all the documents, English common law, even old French law and things like that. Nowhere is there anything that says, you know what, the government's just going to tell you where you can spend your money and where they can't.
Well, that was the point. I mean, Hamilton straight up is. I mean, they're arguing. I mean, there was a whole duel based off of, dude, don't tell us how we're going to spend our money.
Right.
Like, it's nuts. It's legitly. But it's happening. We're there. Like, it's not. I mean, we could sit there and argue it, but you know what? The chickens come home to roost. I mean, it's there, and there's nothing that we. I guess this is almost a Doom's way of looking at things. Like watching CZ and all the stuff that's actually happening. If the fines are for committing nefarious acts, where does the money go? If people are harmed by these acts, should the funds go to the injured? Oh, that's great.
Betty,
And it's,
Betty,
oh,
I've
Betty.
got the answer for you, and you're not gonna like it. You're just not gonna like it.
Yeah.
The answer is it depends, and we talk about this periodically on this show. But the difference is that the SEC, their fines goes back into the SEC budget. They basically get to keep their money that they fine people. Now, that being said, I don't know if there's a clawback, like meaning that if they get too much fines, like $4 billion worth, that the part of it doesn't go back to the U.S. Treasury. But generally, they get it to fund the SEC in their ongoing investigations. Now, the CFTC does not. Their fines go to the U.S. General Treasury, just the regular General Treasury to pay the bills, whatever. And they have to go to Congress every year. The CFTC has to go to Congress and say, I need my budget this year and I need more of it. Whereas the SEC just charges people. They're like, we need more money. Let's charge people. These other groups, FinCEN and OFAC, I don't know where their money goes. But part two of your question, harmful not just for the citizens of the United States, but a more widespread injury. Question, harmful not just for the citizens of the
Oh,
United
she's
States.
referring to like people who, let's say, Hamas went through and bombed, maybe for the state of Israel or for the orphanages down in Gaza Strip or something like that. Is that what you mean, Betty? Like it should.
Yeah, if you're still listening, why don't you clarify that one for us? But the general rule is that is that Congress will step in for those types of things. Like a good example is after 9/11, the United States seized a bunch of money from terrorist organizations. And normally that would go into the general fund of the United States. But Congress came in and said, no, we're going to take that money and put it towards a victims fund. In general, the agencies either get the money or send the money to the U.S. Treasury. In exceptional circumstances, the Congress steps in, passes a law saying, no, we're going to redirect this money to a victims fund or to their own pockets or whatever. To Nancy Pelosi's husband's trading fund that always seems to be one step ahead of the market.
Shocking. He's such a good trader.
I didn't just say that.
Listen, we need to be careful, honestly. Like when I started going through, man, and like legitly, like these small little YouTubers and/or Twitter guys, like our government's becoming very heavy-handed. Like it's legit.
Yeah, we
And
need a change of administration. The current guy doesn't have his eye on the ball, and when you don't have your eye on the ball in a government, bad things happen. Bad things happen. We need an Alexander Hamilton back in there to kind of shake it up a little bit.
Who's going to step up and actually play that? Because they'll get killed off. That's just the honest to God. I'm like, and I'm
running for president.
Yeah, like if you start talking like Kennedy, right, where you're going to open things up and start talking about real issues that the reason behind it, then they're going to just end up sending you to jail.
You know what? I don't
potentially
which Kennedy are you talking about?
I'm talking original Kennedy, and then well, I guess Bobby, he started talking, and
I don't have. I just want to lay it out there. I don't have any time for those people that say that it was the U.S. government that killed Kennedy, or there was a second shooter, or anything like that. I mean, not only is it bullshit. I've been to the Texas Book Depository. I've been there. I've stood in the window at the sixth floor museum, and with a scoped rifle. I mean, with an open sights rifle, it's not a difficult shot. I don't want to hear anyone say it was a moving car, it was moving away from the window at a very slow speed. I mean, it's literally anyone with any experience with a rifle could make the shot. And with a scope on it, even easier. And not only that, but the company I used to work for in Cincinnati, I actually met a lot of the guys that worked on the Kennedy car because that company built it, did the armoring, the light armoring beforehand, and then afterwards it came back and completely armored the car after the assassination. And they said there was still evidence of the president in the car, and I don't want to discuss the disgusting parts of that. And that from the evidence in the where the car was shot, they said it's clear that it came from back up over in the window up there, and there was no guy on the hill also shooting, or some secret cabal of people inside the car shooting up from the floor, and all these other crazy things and all that. So I just wanted to lay that out there, that if anyone comes to me and says, "Oh no, it was the U.S. government that killed him," no, the U.S. government didn't kill him. No, there wasn't a second shooter.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that we, I mean, I guess I'm becoming more disenchanted with the US and seeing how everything's playing out. And there's all these people who are trying to just even make fun of our government. And
I've been watching it
and
happen for years, since Barack was the president.
yeah,
Sorry to interrupt you, Pedro. Go ahead.
no, that's it. Like that, like, please talk about it. And I'm sitting there just,
I've been watching it happen. I for work, I used to travel the world all the time. I used to go all over the world, and when I started traveling for work, it was like, "Oh, you're American. Blah, blah, great. Well, yeah, everything's great. Love America." And then when Barack became president, it totally went through the roof. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, America's the greatest country. They overcame all of their past issues with color, with everything, with racism. They put their mind to it, and they elected an African American to be president. They've done such a good job." By the end of Barack's presidency, literally the world hated us. We lost such a golden opportunity there. I remember I kind of remember the day it started too, and it was when we got Osama bin Laden. The war had been dragging on in Afghanistan and around the world, and everyone's gotten kind of tired of it. And then Barack goes on TV and says, "We got him. We got him." And that day, things changed for America. If Barack had said, "You know what? We're done. We're packing up the troops out of Afghanistan and everywhere else," and say, "Come on home. We said we were going to get this MFer. We don't anyone else do that, because we're going to come in and mess up your country and screw everything up for you for decades. And then when we're done, we're just going to leave you hanging there. Go F yourself." And instead, he said, "We're going to continue this war for another 13 years." Or however long it went on, another whole bunch of years. And I was so disappointed. And that's when things changed, because that's when people realized that the defense business in the U.S. Wasn't going to let anything stop. Quickly the word changed from, "Okay, we got Osama," to, "Well, we've put all this effort into it and soldiers have died. We can't just leave now." Yes, you can leave war anytime, and it's fine. It's fine. Leaving war is always fine. And that day it changed. And then after I started traveling after that, people were like, "Man, you guys screwed it up." And Barack's popularity went to the ground. When he used to go to Europe, he'd get 200,000 people to come see him. Like, he'd get 20,000 in the U.S., and in Europe he'd get 200,000. And it was crazy. And then when that unfortunate person got elected, following Barack, then the world really started laughing at us. And I would really show up at places and people would point and go, "Ha, ha, 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 you guys screwed it up." And you're right. And so that, combined with the lack of, focus by our government doing good things, combined with an overreaching policy group of writers, and I can talk about that forever, and the amount of now, it's like, of any profession, the U.S. government has the most amount of lawyers in it, which is fine. I'm not besmirching lawyers. The problem is that they don't need to have, what happens is someone analyzes a lawyer analyzes a situation. We have a potential liability here. Let's write a policy, and that's a good idea to have, but it's overreaching. You can always find something wrong with everything. And so they end up with these policies and mission creep, and they grow and they grow and they grow and they grow, to the finally you get to the point where we're at now, in which it's almost like we need to say, "You know what? We need to chop the U.S. the budget in half, and say, all right, let's restart it. Start things with half the budget and see what policies actually matter."
That would never happen. No matter, I mean, unless there was some type of, like restructuring where somebody gets in office and just says, literally, let's say they
It
actually elect
like
a
Robert Kennedy
libertarian.
needs to come in and he wants to. If he
There you
gets in,
go.
he's making all kinds of changes.
That's where I was going, where you were talking about. Um, but really, it's the Kennedy that they're kind of. And listen, and I am not a Q dude. Like, I'm not a Q dude. I'm not like any.
Neither am
It
I.
just I'm actually totally. When I first stumbled onto them, I was like, "This is nuts!" Like, I think they pointed out some things that, the child porn thing, and that was something that I think they did really bring to light during COVID, and I think that was great. And like a lot of people, like Ashton Kutcher and a bunch of other people, went through and said, "This is just got to stop. Like, this has got to stop." And I think that was kind of cool, right? Apart from that, but Kennedy coming in and saving the day, and he never died and all that. I watched their video. I remember sitting there watching the video, going like, "This is crazy." I think this savior, and Trump is like friends with them, and this is all going to happen. And I'm like, "This is crazy." But so I'm not about that. But I do see. Oh, why am I calling Robert? It's not Robert Kennedy. It's why am I forgetting his name?
Robert Kennedy Jr.
No, not Robert. The guy who's running for office right now, who's more running like as a libertarian, or independent. Um, Kennedy. Why am I forgetting his name? He's kind of running right now. Holy crap! I'm like having a senior moment right here, right now. Like he's trying to. Oh, it is Robert.
Yeah.
Holy
I
crap!
was, I
Yeah,
was
I
thinking.
thought it was.
I was thinking my brain was messed up there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It is Robert. Yeah, if he comes on and really starts to, my brain was thinking it was Bobby. Like when I said Robert, I said Bobby. Excuse me, but like he, if anybody could, I think he could. But just the current establishment and the globalists aren't gonna. I don't think they're gonna allow it. I just don't think the media and how everything works. It's just I don't see it actually happening where America could sit there. I mean, the American people could once again be like free. Like to be able to choose.
Not until our government budget is much less, and we can't
Yeah.
fund all these people that sit around and and enact policy and get promoted because of it. I think I've mentioned this before on here. I met someone at an event, and it was like a political, caucusing event for our local neighborhood for city councilmen, and asking her, "What do you do? What do you do?" And, "Oh, I work for such and such department in health and human services or something like that." "Oh yeah, I work for city of Chicago, whatever, blah blah blah." Then this one guy says, I work for I can't remember the guy in the House Representative in the district next to me at the time. But he said that like, "Oh, blah blah blah." He said, "But I write policy," like, and I was like, "Okay," and he's like, "So I have influence that other people don't have," and I was like, I took that away. I was like, "Whoa, you mean people aspire to write policy?" And he's like, "Yeah." He said that those are the people who have the most influence. And he said it like he was so proud. And I was like, "Well, what about all the bad policies and the overreach of the US government? All that comes from policy." And he's like, "Yeah, people get promoted for that." And I wanted to punch him in the face. I just wanted to punch him in the face. And it was so eye-opening at that time. This was in the late 90s, or like maybe 2000, 2001, somewhere in there. And I was like, this is ridiculous that we employ people to write policy and then they get promoted by just getting their policies enacted.
And not to condone violence, right? Because you would never punch somebody in the face, because that's against the law to even sit there and say that.
This guy watches
But
this show and complains that he threatened me 25 years later.
well, I don't think you really wanted to punch him. I just think the emotion.
I metaphorically, I wanted to emotionally punch him.
No, we don't even say that, right? We would say something like, it was wrong because they're selling down or selling. They're selling America for their own personal gain,
I,
right?
I
And
agree
that
with it. That's
emotionally
exactly
moved
what
you.
they're doing.
Yes, and to highlight that, because we never know if that person climbs ranks, and then if that person then all of a sudden gets in office, and you know
Oh,
what I'm
this
saying?
guy. This guy's just, well, he's probably running the garbage, the streets and sand department now.
Maybe not. But either way, it's one of those things that I'm watching going, holy crap, this is just nuts.
Here,
It's
Betty.
nuts.
Sorry to interrupt you, Pedro, but Betty
But
Baskins gets back to us saying, no, the investors need to get refunded for taking the hit. Now, Betty, I agree with you if it
mm,
is like the SEC says, you know, drunken Dogecoin was a rug pull, and we found out who the undoxed devs were, and we got the money back, and we're going to send it to a claims administrator, and you can file to get your money back. Now, I agree with that. That's returning the funds, like when the Mount Gox stuff got stolen. The Mount Gox Bitcoin was stolen. It's gone for years, and then the U.S. government seized it, found it, and seized it, and arrested the people that did the hack. And the U.S. government was going to keep the money. They're like, well,
mm,
no, well, we seized it, so we have to dispose of it a certain way. And finally, for a long time, people are like, no, no, no. Finally, the bankruptcy court in wherever Mount Gox was, Japan. I don't remember if it was Japan or South Korea. Got back to the U.S. government and said, no, no, that we have a claim on that stuff. And so it's ultimate. That stuff ultimately, probably some of it will get back to the people injured, but regarding CZ and the $4 billion, that's more of a fine. That if you were to sit back and look, basically what the U.S. government is saying, that everything that Binance.com did in the U.S. Was illegal, and everybody was injured. I mean, people made tons of money. I mean, their claim that everyone was injured and that there's $4 billion of damages is totally untrue. It's just a guess that the prosecutors come up with to use as a hammer on the Binance coffin, on the nail in the coffin, to say, this is what we think, and you're going to pay it or else. And it's a negotiation. They negotiated, probably started higher, and they probably settled on 4.3 billion. They probably went in with 10 billion, and CZ said that's impossible. You'll bankrupt the company, and if you bankrupt Binance,
you ain't getting jacked.
yeah, first of all, you're not getting jacked, but you're going to actually harm millions of people around the world, and millions of people around the world, including families in Asia that only have $300 to their name, are going to hate you, and their sons are all going to go be jihadists against you. So the U.S. government has to be careful on that. But they probably settled on $4 billion, and then the other $3.4 billion to FinCEN and $900 million to OFAC. That was in the end, it was a settlement. But the fines to FinCEN and OFAC, that's just money to the U.S. government. And most of the fines to the SEC and Department of Justice is bullshit. I mean, because they just come up with a figure saying, oh, this is, who is harmed. There's no way in crypto to figure out who. There's no way to figure out who is harmed when your own project rug pulls, because some people made money from it. It's not like, well, everyone involved in that project got harmed.
You would have to go through the transactions.
Exactly. You would have to do a forensic accounting and see exactly. You'd have to say, well, Binance commingled funds here. And first of all, who cares if they commingled funds? As an operational thing, yeah, I see that's a problem. But for a crime problem, no, that's not a crime problem. And then they just come up with a figure. Like, someone generates the total number of transactions, total dollar volume. They come up with a penalty for that. Say, we see that you've made $4 billion from the U.S. And not only that, but they're basically also saying that, I was reading some of this article about monitoring Binance, is that one of the issues that the U.S. government had big problems with was that since Binance.com is such a great exchange, its liquidity is deep, it's just a great exchange, people want to use it. So a lot of people in the U.S. were using VPNs to trade on it. And a lot of people apparently a lot of people that have relatives overseas would get a relative to open an account, but then they would use the account from the U.S. and VPN and over there. And even though the person has gone around the rules by doing that, the person in the end country who clicks the box that says this account's for you, not for someone else, and then the person saying using the VPN and violating the terms of service break all the rules, the U.S. government thinks it's still Binance's fault that that's happening. I don't mean like past problems that they were having, but the fact that people could still do that, that's still a problem. So they're actually monitoring that now going forward, extensively monitoring their users. So in essence now, the U.S. government's going to be able to monitor every Binance transaction around the world, and they're going to suck all that data in and go after the people that aren't paying their taxes. And so it's I'll just finish that with it. This is a shit show. It's just ridiculous.
On a side note, I've been paying attention to the technology of the wave brain or the brainwave communication and the MR. What do they call it? MR. Anyways, long story short, they've created these devices that literally use your brain waves, and it detects it by simple, like you put on a hat. Yeah, exactly. And you're able to communicate through pictures. Like you think of pictures and it brings it up. And Meta went through and has straight up, and this is what's blowing me away with all their stuff that they have going on, because they, just like Twitter and Elon Musk is powering Gawk, or is it Grook? Is it Grook or Gawk?
I call it Grok.
Grok, yeah, whatever it is. It is literally setting up where Facebook has pretty much the same type of data and connections. And I was wondering, like, dude, I was just shocked because they came through and they set this up, and I'm kind of blown away because for lack of just, you can sit there now and communicate. So me and you one day might be able to put on some headsets, and or maybe visually just it watches that and actually can go through I don't know, geothermal slash brainwave beta, what is it, meta and gamma rays, whatever it is,
Well, I'm
right?
willing to
That's not
bet
like it.
Elon's working on that at Neuralink too.
Yeah, but it was really interesting that Meta came out with this new system, well, not new system, but they were saying, yeah, we can do this. And I sat there and I was just like, holy moly! Like we're at a point now where it's just, it's insanity, the technology that is happening and the evasiveness of what's actually happening in our just regular companies that are in America and around the world. And I, and if any company comes through and releases what they've got, they got more. Just like the U.S. government, like when the U.S. government comes through and sits there and says, "Oh, we're going to release this," well, they've got something 10 times more crazier and more advanced than what they're actually going through and releasing. So it's just really interesting to sit there and see, like, what's really out there. Like if they have that, do you think China has something like that, right? Where they can.
It's probably
Yeah.
those group of people that China's persecuting is probably a whole warehouses full of them just sitting on a bench going, so getting their brains probed.
Bro, like, well, that's the thing. Whether you're whether you're Wiggers, or whether you're Christians, or
Right.
whether you're Buddhist, like, they don't like you, like, because you believe that there's a higher power outside of their government, of the CCP. So it's really interesting to sit there and see, like, is technology going to be the downfall of America by bringing a crazy just.
Nah, it won't be the downfall. It'll just tighten our grip on things, because with those things, the first not just to market, but the first to really embrace it and use it wins. And we'll embrace it. There's nothing you can do to stop it. I mean, when you go back, a zillion years from now, when people look at the history of the Earth, they'll say, what were the major advances in with humans? And it was like, okay, we learned to talk. And that was the first one. The second one is we learned
written language.
Yeah, no, just we learned to communicate. We learned to talk.
Yeah.
And then the next one is we invented fire. And then nothing happened for millions of years. And then we invented metal, or learned how to metal. That changed humanity. And then we figured out electricity.
Big tools.
All right. And then after that, I mean, think about the advances that happened since we've invented electricity. Not invented, but we harnessed electricity 150 years ago or 170 years ago, whatever it's been. We've gone from just like drooling around our shadows here on the Earth to interplanetary travel,
Yes.
And so that's the rate of acceleration of all that. Just think of what's coming.
50 years from now, man, when me and you are in our 90s, still doing the show, right?
Doing it from Mars. We decided to go out in the field, ladies and gentlemen. We're doing the show from Mars.
Would you actually go to Mars?
I'd go if it was safe and had plenty of time left. Brian says source CFTC suit section 104 and 105. I don't know what he was referring to that. Brian, if you're still listening, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess I can just Google that.
Let's moving up. Is that the source for not Facebook, for Binance?
I don't have it. Honestly, I don't have any idea what he's referring to.
And is this on YouTube? Oh, there it is. Yeah. I sent 2 messages above that.
Oh no, they did. Hey Brian, they didn't come in. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me check the. I'm using a system that aggregates all of our comments from different platforms, but it's not on YouTube or on. Let's see. Let me put live chat. Let's see if it. Oh, here the moderation grabbed you. Okay, here let's. Here I got him to come up. To be fair about the Binance situation, the lawsuit was pretty damning. CZ purposely skated AML regulations for profit, going as far to fake AML. Oh, I agree with you. We mentioned that maybe before you came on, we were talking about that. They got to the point where like the government said, "Yeah, here's the emails showing that all this is fake," and you tried to get around this. So I totally agree with you on that. I think what I was saying earlier was that there's a difference. There's a difference between saying, "Oh, I was a 19-year-old. I didn't know we had to do all these rules. I just made an exchange and it worked, and everything was great. But now you told us what the rules are, so now we abide by them." Versus, "Hey, I know what the rules are. Let's not, we need more money, and the market makers and these big accounts, we don't know where their money's coming from, but it really makes our liquidity good." So that's a problem, and that's probably ultimately what got them. As usual, doing stupid things in print, in email and stuff. And I don't know, these people, it's like they don't learn anything. Like I dealt with the U.S. government for a long time, for years in procurement and in dealing with agencies for work. And email is a big thing, and everything transacted by email. Everyone knows that the U.S. government email system, everyone can view it in their department, and that they track it. Inspector generals have access to it. So when you get an email from someone that says, "Hey, call me," it means they don't want to put something in print. And and every U.S. government bureaucrat, elected official, person, enforcement agent, whatever, they all do that because they know there are conversations they don't want to get recorded. And they may not be nefarious or evil. They just may be just not for email, not for being recorded forever. It's somebody could look back and take out of context. someone could put in an email, hey, I got that gun for you. And then they're like, see, he's a terrorist. And they're like, no, 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 it was a paintball gun for his son's birthday, and that type of stuff. Brian says, yes, interesting. So Binance fell victim to the dumbass things where they put things in email. And all these companies that operate around the world now and don't use phones, and they use Slack and all that type of stuff, and email, they're all of them. I'll bet you $1 million that with the latest indictment of Kraken, that they have the same they have the same emails from Kraken. I'll bet you it's just. Let's go back to our conversation earlier, in which the U.S. government's prosecution rate is 90 zillion %. So they didn't. they weren't going after Kraken, and I don't know if it's just the SEC, but the SEC. There's one thing when it's argument with XRP when they're losing like crazy, because that's a theoretical case. They're like, we're saying that's securities, and you're saying it's not, and that's kind of stuff. What the SEC is saying to the Kraken is that you did illegal things. I would say it's different. It's closer to the Binance case than the XRP case. So they've got some kind of evidence. They've got some kind of evidence. And there's gonna be like the smoking gun. And if you're thinking about starting a financial company, don't use email. Call people and talk on the phone, because they can't warehouse that stuff.
Well, I would kind of. I mean, I know people who are in the U.S. government that are running, and they will not even talk on phones. They will only talk literally face to face, right? If they're talking about something serious, or they will use at the time, Signal, because
Right.
Signal.
I use Signal extensively.
But even in Signal now, like they put like ways where if you're in the U.S., you can't you give them the right now to, unless you turn on your VPN, but then you look like you're being nefarious in a sense, right? So
they can't hear the conversations. They can know who you're talking to, but they can't hear the conversation. And that's all I want is that the conversations with my kids that I have, because I use it primarily for family stuff. Because every once in a while, the SMS databases get hacked, and like T-Mobile and AT&T here in the U.S. and Vodafone in Europe, they keep their SMSs for like 90 days. But your phone keeps them until you delete them. Every once in a while, that database gets hacked, and SMSs get leaked out. And the last thing I want is the conversations I have with my kids over time, or the conversations they have with each other about family stuff, to get on the internet and fully searchable. So that's when I just said with the kids, like for regular stuff, I don't care. I use SMS. Who cares? But for things I just don't want to end up on the internet someday, like conversations with my son about this and that, and daughter about this and that. Nope. That stuff is just not going out. But yes, Brian, end-to-end encryption should be required by law for all messaging apps, and for just that reason. I mean, a good example. A relative of mine is going in for a hospital procedure right now, and there's a chat group about it. If that were to get hacked, then there'd be health information on the internet violating HIPAA. So if they were to encrypt all that kind of stuff on SMS, then we wouldn't have that problem. Another side tangent today. Woo! We're hitting them all today, Pedro.
Yes, we are, baby. Yes, we are.
Brian, what's happening in the land of software programming, or whatever it is you're working on today? Let us know what you're doing, where you are, all that type of stuff. Pedro, what you looking at?
I've got a few things that I have been really building.
But you do that while I use the restroom really quickly.
Yes. I've been really kind of looking at the markets overall in general to see what we're actually doing and what's actually going on. And I think one of the things that I'm more or less like curious about is like these other altcoins, right? Like to me, like these other altcoins are potential to just explode. And so when I sit there and I go, holy crap, man, like Dogecoin, I don't think Elon Musk is going to let Doge fall. I mean, it has been holding tight in this level here. And, I thought he would, he made his money and then he's going to bounce. But I mean, he made his money 2017. I mean, back in here. I mean, this is when I started looking at Bitcoin. Or at least, I had a friend of mine who I was kind of teaching how to trade. And you can see here that there were some major buys going on at these levels with Dogecoin. And I mean, and we're talking like 4 million, 5 million that somebody was buying. And, like like coins, somebody was buying this stuff. And then you see this huge push up right here. And then the same type of wallet was still buying down at these levels here, right? And now, as we know, like Bitcoin is sitting up here. And the only person I can think of that would potentially buying this would be Elon Musk, right? Because he saw this and was like, huh, you know? So I wonder, like, how much money, like we're talking about all the laws and Yellen coming in and talking about how, she's like, y'all need to pay up your taxes. Y'all need to get involved, right? Like, are they going to go after Elon Musk with Dogecoin? I mean, is this, because he manipulated it. He absolutely when he said Doge to the moon, that's when all of a sudden everything went nuts for Doge. Everything, right?
Right.
So it's like, are they going? Do you think they're going to go after Doge? Do you think they're going to go after Elon for this? I know if I were them, I would. That'd be something that market manipulation.
But
right?
in Elon's defense in that, everybody, and find me a person that doesn't believe this or know this, that Doge is entertainment and is not actually an investment.
It doesn't matter.
I know,
People
but
had money. People had money in it, and they were harmed. And he potentially could have harmed many of the U.S. citizens that bought up in here who watched Saturday Night Live.
hold on a second. I'm chatting with my son here real quick.
Sorry. So I think I just think it's really interesting to sit there and just the just the huge push up that we saw in relationship to everything within Dogecoin. I mean, I know that I would sit there and go after them. I wouldn't be so, because I mean, that gives the SEC that opportunity again to bring money into their cofferdom, or cofferdam. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Brian? Love to hear. Hey, Brian, if you want to come through, man, you're more than welcome if you got time. I know you're always busy working on the stuff that you're doing and, and having fun there. So, but if you want to come on, man, you're always fun to have on. Always good. You can privately hit me up and I'll send you the link. Or no, like Tom will. I don't need to do that. There you are. See that? You hit that area right there. You see that?
No.
Right.
All we see is a little line going down like, pew.
Yeah, this right here is just areas where you have illiquidity, not a lot of demand in that area. And it makes it very hard for the market to swim through that. And so what happens is it will establish orders and then come back down and grab that orders. But as it establishes order, it pushes the market in a direction. And so that is where I've been trying to find inconsistencies where we can take advantage of the market. And so it's kind of taken a long time for me to sit there and just look at the markets, and the problem is you need a huge computer base or processing to house all this information. And it's very hard because you gotta have millions of dollars to be able to sit there and put away.
I got a good story for you on this trading. Pull up Solana.
Oh, yes, sir.
This is a good one. Actually, it's a sad one, but it's in the spirit of rugged, ruined, and wrecked. This is a good story.
Dude,
Uh,
Solana. What up, Brian? It's good to see you, brother. Oh, we can't hear you.
Hear him.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
I didn't bring Brian on.
Oh, he's in. He's in. Maybe you gave him that link and he just jumped into it.
Oh, he's in the room. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
give me a second, Brian. I'll bring you in here. I got to do a little behind the scenes work because I'm using my new studio here. I think we have your voice. I think we got your voice so far.
There we are. There he is. Boom. Yeah, brother.
We can't hear you.
I
Hold
can
on.
hear him.
Oh, you can hear him,
wait.
but why can't I hear him?
Let me see if.
Oh
let's
wait,
see
I
if
just give me 1 second. I'll have him in here. I think we have your voice. Yeah,
Say
give me
something, Brian.
Yeah, it's give me 1 second. I got to I got to bring up this this is the way I have it here. You should be coming in right about now. There. Yeah, now.
Oh no, he's not on the live stream. You're right.
Yeah, now he is.
All right, perfect. Talk to me. Give me some beatboxing.
What's up, guys?
Let me get your picture
What's
up here.
brother? How you doing?
Yeah, are you pulling a picture up? Just let me know.
So on the lines of Dogecoin,
Is it illegal if he didn't do it for his own personal gain, right? Like, could he be held criminally liable if he wasn't pumping it so that he could dump on everyone? But instead, if he was just pumping it just to pump it for the memes.
Right. That's a big difference. I mean, is he pumping it to say like, "Yo, I love Doge. It's awesome. It's great." That's one thing. But if he's pumping, if he's doing that and he's got a big sell order in 10 points up, then that's different. I get that.
I think either way. I mean, because here's the thing: he's a smart dude. He ain't dumb, and he understands wallets. He understands how to get in, how to get undetected. So the reality is this: and I went through probably I would say 1,000 coins back when I started teaching my friend about trading and what the market looks like, and I remember going through, and I just I was just creeping through, and I stumbled onto Doge when it was like, and somebody was buying it at these levels of like 0 when it was in the zeros, like why is Doge, here we are, like at really low levels, really low levels, as before it exploded. And at these moments, like I sit there and I go, who was buying it? Because I, as a trader, saw the volume coming in every month, maybe once a month, maybe once every 2 weeks, somebody would come in and they would be buying large amounts of Doge, right? So I remember sitting there going, who's buying that, right? And I didn't understand how at that time crypto worked and how you have to have a wallet and all this other stuff. But you would throw on your all you need to do is throw on your VPN, and he's a smart guy, so he probably sat there and bought this. And I don't know, again,
why risk everything though, man? He's got so much to lose by making dumb mistakes like that. And he's made dumb mistakes, but amazingly he's won them. Like when
Funding secured.
Say it again.
Money
Said
rule.
funding secured. That was his big mistake.
Right. Funding secure. Right. His tweet. Sovereign wealth fund to invest in Tesla and take it private.
Yeah, exactly. How'd that work out? They're like, to be clear, funding is not secured.
It's like when a politician says something in the speech and then afterwards the minions run around clarifying what he actually meant to say.
Yeah.
It's intense in the idea of, did he? I think he would have. I think because at that time I know that he needed money for Starlink. I know, and at that moment when Dogecoin went parabolic and it went up, I think it was 80 cents at its peak, right? It was 74 cents at its peak. There started, obviously there started to become some big selling coming into that, and I remember sitting there like thinking to myself, because I remember he needed money. He did need money for Starlink, and all of a sudden he had the money. All of a sudden he had all that cash, and he dropped
I don't know.
billions into it.
I don't know, man. I think he's got a decent amount of assets to tap into. No.
Yes and no. I mean, dude, this was 2017. Dude, he was losing a lot of face. I mean, he got in trouble for smoking weed on Joe
Yeah,
Rogan.
his stock was down a lot, but he still
Bro,
had
he
billions.
wasn't.
They almost
I mean,
went bankrupt. Yeah, for sure.
Right,
Yeah.
they were close,
This
but
was-
his
He needed
his
cash.
genius moment. What was his genius moment? It was when he took deposits on the Model 3.
Yeah, so I mean, I still have a deposit on a Cybertruck. You know, they did like millions of those deposits, I think, and they were
Yeah.
$100 a hit. I mean, they pulled in $100 million in non-refundable money. It's crazy. You know.
I know, it's awesome. What a great scam that is.
Yeah, I mean, here we are 4 years later. They're about to deliver the Cybertruck.
And they're gonna do, yeah. And what is it? They're only gonna do like 100,000 a year or something like that. It's something small.
I think they're going to ramp production to 300,000 a year is the target. But they
Hmm.
built that factory for it
In Mexico, right?
in Texas. But yeah,
Texas. It's real
Gigafactory,
interesting.
Giga Austin. It's in Austin.
That's
Giga
nuts, man.
Austin.
That's just nuts.
That factory is really sick, actually. Like from an engineering standpoint, the machine that builds the machine, it's super impressive.
It really is, especially when he, like, I saw an early video of it, and he was talking about they had all these people working on this area and stuff, and he's like, all they're doing is setting this up for the robots, and it was something simple, like just to move this bolt over here, and they're like, well, why can't you just have someone do that? And he's like, no, that's not the point. The point is to have this all set up so that, you know, we get it to an efficient point, everything's working, and then we can turn it up by 0.01%. He said, then a couple of weeks later, we can turn it up another 0.01%, another 0.01%, and we can keep doing that. And then when you saw his thought process, and especially when the way he, you know, his famous thing is that if an engineer is designing a part, he's doing the wrong thing. He should be designing to eliminate that part. I don't remember his quote exactly, but it was genius. You know, like the current Falcon and the engines on the SpaceX rockets have like 60% the amount of parts that his first ones did. It's like it's genius. They're so much less expensive. They assemble faster. And same with his cars. His cars have so many fewer moving parts than the early models, and even, I mean, compared to, you know, our cars and internal combustion engine cars. I mean, you know, our cars have millions. I think our typical car has like 10,000 moving parts, and his EVs have like 6 moving parts.
Yeah, like for example, when the Model Y came out, obviously it's a lot of the same components as the Model 3, but it had not 93. They got rid of 93% of the wiring.
Right.
I mean, they brought the wiring in the car down to 7% of what it originally was.
Yeah, and the weight, I remember them talking about the weight they pulled out. It was like, you know, 120 pounds, or I think they used kilos at the time, like, you know, 50 kilos of just wire. And you're like, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, and then the Gigapress.
Oh yeah, that I saw a video of that, and I was just like, unbelievable. I live in Chicago, and on the south side here is a place called the Ford Mall, and the land is a shopping mall, and it has these big, awesome buildings next to it, concrete buildings left over with trees growing through them and stuff. And finally, I was like, what the hell are those things? And they're the stamping, the tops of the huge stamping machines that Ford built to stamp parts of airplanes for World War II and for Korea and stuff. And they're massive. They're huge. And it's unbelievable. Then I saw the machine that SpaceX Tesla was using. And I was like, holy crap. I mean, this is
a big
unbelievable.
piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it removed 70 parts from the rear assembly of the vehicle. 70 little parts that they would have to weld.
Right.
And yeah, a lot of that's whatever, but 70 parts is a lot of parts to remove.
It is. I used to build vehicles in a previous career. I was in an industry. We took vehicles apart and built them back up from scratch, and it was, I mean, you always ended up with a few extra parts. Like, hey, boss. I'm like, oh, you know, where'd that go? And the amount of parts that are in typical cars, not electric cars, is just unimaginable. To be able to eliminate any of those.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, they removed 300 robots from the production line with the Gigapress. 9,000 ton press, dude.
Imagine being the robot salesman guy, and they call you up every day. They call you and say, "We need more. We need more. We need more. We need more." And then they call you up and say, "Hey, can you buy 300 of them back?" Like, wait, what? Wait, no, that's not how this works.
We'll buy them for 5% of what we sold them to you for.
Exactly.
And we'll sell them to Rivian or Lucid.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The thing is he's all about efficiency. I mean, it's not. I think that's what makes him just really, or at least in America, or I guess just free enterprise, right? The idea of just efficiency, like how efficient is what you're doing, and the more efficient it is, the more money you can make off of it. And so it's one of those things that he scales for efficiency, not necessarily for profitability. But overall, that's where you make that money, right?
Facts.
I don't know, man. I just wonder, like, who was this huge buyer down in? I don't know who.
I mean, who's the big buyer for anything, though, right?
We don't know in crypto. I mean, you really can't. The wallets are where they're at.
Pseudonymous, right?
Yeah, man. And if somebody knows what they're doing, you can. I mean, you can go through, pull money out, and around the world and places where, like, I was talking about the huge traders down in St. Why do I keep forgetting that island? Tom, why am I forgetting it? There's huge traders. There's just huge traders in Thurl and like St. Thomas, right? Where they sit there and they get in out of the market. Nobody knows about these guys. They're the biggest traders in the world. They're not the George Soros. It's the Joe Blow down in Ireland who comes in, around, when the market closes and is like, "Hey guys, what's up?" And he buys everybody a round of drinks. I mean, one of the best traders that I personally know, like, and we talk probably at least once a day. The guy brings in probably $250,000, $300,000 a day, like a day. Like, "Thank you, have a nice day," boom. And he goes in and he buys everybody, 2 or 3 drinks, and nobody would know that granted he's rich, but you wouldn't know that the guy makes like, 300,000, 250,000 a day.
This would be a good problem to have. This would be a problem, a challenge that I would be willing to take.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the guy's ridiculous, but he's a savant when it comes to trading, and he doesn't even trade big. Like, he's a very small trader. Yeah. And so you have these these people make $1 billion in 2 or 3 weeks, and they don't have to claim taxes on it because they're in an island somewhere where.
Well, they're also not citizens of the U.S. then.
Yeah, absolutely. Or they were citizens.
And they're expats now, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, those people that do that, all I can say is that they make the biggest mistake of their life over a few dollars. Because one day, I don't care what country you go to, one day there's going to be a time when you're like, "I need the U.S. to come rescue me." Yep. And the U.S. is going to be like, "Let's crank this up here. Oops."
That's why the decree that Puerto Rico has with Act 60 is so huge, because you don't have to give up your U.S. citizenship, and you're able to, really minimize your tax liability massively, especially if your taxes, main tax income is capital gains. Like, if you're trading, right. I mean, capital gains tax there is non-existent. If you're Act 60 decree, you have 0 capital gains and 4% regular income tax. And no, you're exempt from federal tax, which is insane. And you're still an American citizen. You just have to live in Puerto Rico for a bona fide resident, 6 months in a day.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's incredible. Fun little party trick. What I was alluding at, Pedro, was who's buying everything. Well, it's BlackRock, Vanguard, Fidelity, and State Street, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. I did this fun little party trick the other day. You'll enjoy this, man. And I was with my wife, and we're with one of our friends, and her cousin, actually. And I'm like, just name any company, the biggest company you can think of, just name them. and she named a couple Amazon, Google, and we're just going down the list. Largest equity holder in XYZ company, and you Google it, and it's like it's one of them, if not all of them.
It's all the
You know,
banks.
yeah, it's so funny. Well, it's Vanguard, BlackRock, State
Right.
Street, Fidelity, and then you look up the banks that also have Bank of America, JP Morgan, Chase, and who's their largest equity holders?
Yeah, exactly. It's
Bingo.
the craziest thing. But if you think about it, how many people every week when they get paid, or every other week, or every month, whenever it is, have that deduction, that source payroll deduction that goes towards their retirement fund? And every week, imagine running a business. Imagine Brian, you're starting a new business. Imagine that you don't even have to sell anything. All you do is every week, money automatically gets deducted out of people's paychecks, and you get to reinvest it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the greatest. It's
And
like
you get to charge them for that.
it's like the fish in the barrel. I mean, billions of dollars every Friday flow into these firms free of charge, just because it's, every person that's got a paycheck is saying, yeah, I'd like to contribute to my retirement fund. And there's only a few companies left that run most of the retirement funds, and that's Vanguard, BlackRock, Fidelity, and so forth. And it goes down to there, Charles Schwab, and all those guys do too. But it quickly goes to the top 5 have 90% of the markets, and the rest of everybody fight over the last 5%. And they get free money every week. And
Aren't they primarily, just an extension of the government at this point?
they have to be, because they can't. There's no way any of these companies would be allowed to fail. Imagine if BlackRock failed. And
It would be the end of the U.S. The U.S. would burn.
that just trying to unwind this stuff in bankruptcy court would be impossible. And
The bankruptcy courts would be bankrupt.
right,
Yeah, because they're the ones backing them. Like, it's the
Right.
bonds. Who's buying the U.S. bonds, right?
right. Then the U.S. government would have to come in and assume responsibility for all pensions and retirement funds, and then we'd have our national debt would go from 100 trillion to 300 trillion,
Yeah, it'd be insane.
and our currency would devalue. It would be a disaster.
I think about this threat with BRICS and all of this, right? And how legitimate is the threat really if the largest asset managers in the world are essentially an extension of the U.S. government? The U.S. government will never let them flow money over out of the U.S. dollar and replace the dominance of the U.S. dollar, right?
No.
I see that threat as so minimal, really. I don't see it as in a global exchange. Yeah, I think that there's a venerable threat there, but as far as deplacing the U.S. dollar, I don't know.
No,
I don't think so.
I've done a couple episodes of my short videos on BRICS, and it's just there's too many problems with it. First of all, the people that are promoting it are generally corrupt, and two, I don't mean in the U.S. I mean the countries that are promoting it are generally corrupt. If you look at the corruption index, every country that's in, except for one, every country that either has expressed interest in BRICS or is participating in it is in the bottom 50% on the corruption index. And in
Who's the one that's not?
the UAE.
South Africa?
No,
Oh,
the
okay.
yeah, no, South Africa is it's way down there. You have good company like Venezuela, second worst country in the world for transparency and corruption, and all these other cohorts are all down there. And is anybody? If you're an investment guy with Fidelity, and you put your money in something that's controlled by the most corrupt people on the planet, how long before your shareholder sued you and said, wait a minute? If you said this is a super high risk fund, we're investing in, this is probably going to go bankrupt, but it might go 1000x, and that people signed a disclosure, that's one thing. But if it's just all this wealth that's basically tied up in, retirement funds and all these big funds and ownerships, this type of stuff, if you said, well, we're gonna take all our money out of Amazon and we're gonna put it in gold mines in Congo, really,
Yeah.
it just wouldn't get past the risk people at that point, and unless the CEO of the company called them and said, no, we're gonna put $1 trillion into BRICS, and then soon the board of directors would be like, this is a bad plan. That $1 trillion
Let's
is
put
going to
some regulatory pressure on all your other investments real quick and see how
Right.
fast you think that decision
Right. Or I mean, even though they say, well, it's going to be a gold standard. This is the example I love to use. It'll be a gold standard, and even maybe not for retail payments, but for country-to-country bricks, they'll have a gold standard and stuff like that. And say, okay, that actually would push the price up of gold a lot. It could 10x the price of gold tomorrow. Imagine if the price of gold was $20,000 an ounce. And you're a peasant farmer in India. That you can get a little gold out of the streams, but you can't take it to the bank and sell it for $2,000 an ounce. You get it to sell it to the local guy. The local guy sells it to the local guy, regional guy, and then that guy sells it into the jewelry industry. You get a few bucks for that gold. But imagine if you could take it to the bank directly as a currency and get $20,000. Every peasant farmer in China, in India, and for that matter, in every country, anybody, would be strip mining the hell out of every brook, every mountainside runoff, everything you can think of, and the world would be an ecological disaster. Imagine if you could right now, Brian said, I'm working on this software project, or I can go outside in the creek behind my house and dig up the dirt all around it and really all the things that flow into that creek and get as much gold as I can. I could probably pull $100,000 out of there and take it to the bank and get actual cash for it because it's a gold standard. Our country would be a disaster. India would be a mess. China would be just one giant dirt strip. It would look like when you look at the overview satellite of the island of Hispaniola with Haiti and the Dominican Republic on it. There's that line where the Dominican Republic side is green and lush and everything's great, and then the Haiti side is all brown and desolate and dirt. And if we could mine gold for $20,000 an ounce or $50,000 an ounce, the rest of the world would come to a halt. All jobs would come to a halt, and all we'd be doing is strip mining, and the world would be an awful place. So there's so many impossibilities towards the BRICS, besides corruption, lack of transparency. Imagine, Russia says, all right, we've put $1 trillion in gold into the BRIC system. That's kind of a lot, but we'll just make that up. And then tomorrow, Putin goes into the gold auditor's office and says, hey, how much gold do we have? He says, we have $1 trillion.
Thank you. Yeah. That's the end of his life.
Yeah. No. Oops. Yeah. I mean, we have 1.5 trillion. Okay, here's your 500 billion. Yeah,
it's totally true. Well, I know you guys have gotten off topic here already, but I'm about to pull us off topic even more.
Yes.
My wife and I had a really interesting conversation the day before yesterday about space mining and just like the possibilities of rare earth metals that don't even exist on Earth that we can get from space. And how
absolutely.
But the hostile environment that will create of people racing to get to space, to farm this stuff, mine it. It's
well,
gonna be
fortunately, there's a large barrier to entry with that one.
Yeah,
Got to develop a rocket company.
I mean, there's only a few, right? Like literally, that would, and ultimately, I think the U.S. government would just eminent domain, like, oh, sorry, Elon, this is ours. Like, if that actually became a real feasible thing, like, I think.
Well, you could do simple things like you could send like even today we've sent small rockets to asteroids, and imagine if they found a small asteroid that was all some certain super rare metal. You could send another rocket out to go get it and redirect it back into Earth, and even if it falls back into Earth and loses half of its thing burning up, you still got half of you got many tons of a rare earth element that can benefit us, or you just put it in a closer orbit and you mine it, or you just do EVE Online. You ever play EVE Online?
I haven't. I'm familiar with it, but I haven't played it.
No, the basic premise is that in order to get energy and money and all this type of stuff to go around and kick ass around the galaxy, you have to mine things, and so that's the basic premise of it, and that would be the premise here. But you're right. Your wife's right. It's just getting rare earth elements out of places not on Earth, like in other words, wrecking space instead of Earth, would be fine. Fortunately, space is big. I mean, there's a lot going on out there. I mean,
like trillions of light years, right? I think it's billions of trillions of light years, or trillions of billions. I don't know. I don't remember. I think it's 200 trillion billion light years space
across.
What's the size?
as we can see right now with
Yeah, exactly.
what's it called with the new telescope, James West.
93 billion. This is
Dude,
93 billion.
it is. I mean, either way, even if it's just a billion light years away, dude. I mean, that is.
Even if it's one.
Yeah, that's
One
what I'm
light
trying
year.
to say. Yeah, I mean, it's just so much. I mean, for us to get to what is it to Alpha Centauri? I think we have to go. Is it like
Four light years away.
yeah, it's like 4 years. It's like
Well,
4 years.
Bennu just happened, right, with the OSIRIS-REx, and NASA successfully collected samples off of Bennu, and that was an incredible achievement. I mean,
Yeah.
that thing's 116 million kilometers away, and they timed it perfectly years in advance for that, for OSIRIS-REx to hit Bennu, collect a sample, and bounce off of Bennu and come back to Earth. I mean, that's impressive stuff, man.
I mean, it's like being a major league pitcher and throwing a strike, and the strike zone is on the moon, you know, and the moon's moving, you know, and it's going around, and he's like, I think I can get it. Shoot.
Boop.
Got it.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. My son's in orbital mechanics class at St. Louis University right now, as a matter of fact, because he's an aerospace engineer. And, you know, I don't know if you've ever played Kerbal or anything like that in the space program, planning programs, but it's amazing what they can figure out now before what they couldn't figure out, or like that show about the computers, the African American ladies that did all the math calculations to get us to the moon and stuff like that, where the word computer actually came from. There were people doing computing, so they were computers, and now like your phone can calculate the orbit that you need to get an Mars injection orbit. You know, it's the most amazing things now that we got to figure out. But you're right. Eventually, Brian, there'll be a space race for elements and that type of stuff. And I'm willing to bet it won't be long before people just live in space. There'll be a mining outfit out there that all those sci-fi movies we watched on a distant mining colony, you know, will all be true.
Yep.
Just hopefully not the aliens one. Hopefully that one will not be true.
What's going on with Doom? I've seen that now a couple times. I see the trailers following it up, and boom, boom, boom. Effective Fed Ray. Sorry. I don't know. I think about Doom and like we're. I mean, I guess the only thing I can think about is, let's say that there is some type of alien. I mean, again,
now we're on a tangent.
We're really good. Yeah, we are. Like, we went here, dude. I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? If we were to, let's say there is, let's say we're not the only life there is. Do you think that they would let us start to bring clutter to the universe? Like where, like, you see Doom, right? Like, happening, and they're going through and taking over planets, and the race of humans, right, starts to be a total.
Well, if you could travel at light speed around the whole thing, would you care if you screwed up and made a mess of a whole planet area? I mean, you could reach millions of those types of areas, and it would be like, you know, us walking into a cornfield and breaking off one ear of corn. If you're the ants and bugs that feed off that ear of corn, you know, your whole world is climate changed, you know. But for you, you're just like, it's corn, whoop, you know, and you throw it away, and there's still a trillion other ears of corn in that cornfield. So I don't think they give a shit.
I think to the point of, if we're the only like life in the entire universe, I think we just need to hope that we are not the only life in the entire universe. Because if humans are the only intelligent life form in all of the universe, then the spark is very small, and intelligent life form will go extinct. And that's like super sad to think about, really. Like, the concept of, I don't know, we better just hope that there's more out there. We better hope that there's some other.
Well, here's another way to think of it. What if it's not that we're the first and only? What if we're the last and only?
Yeah.
Yeah. What if there were billions of years beforehand, or millions of years in which there were life forms all over the galaxy and that type of stuff, and they screwed it all up? And we're it. It's up to us and the next generation of woke morons that are going to be running everything soon to keep the human race alive. Think of that.
I know.
That's
and this
scary,
week of musical CEOs, we've had OpenAI Sam Altman step down. I know you guys were talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have CZ from Binance resigning. Now Sam Altman is back at OpenAI.
Is he officially back?
He's officially
Yes.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's officially back. He accepted the role as CEO back at OpenAI.
Did they get rid of the board?
They're reshuffling the board, I think. They're changing some stuff. Yeah, which I think is pretty needed. That was like really unhinged, dude.
Yeah. I was saying, imagine that's where we were talking about. I said, imagine being the guys who thought that they had the big balls and that they are the ones who really make decisions, right? And then all of a sudden, right, like they're like, let's kick him out. All right, cool. I don't like the kid anyways. All right, boom. And they think they're not gonna be touched. Then all of a sudden, homeboy, almost all of his homeboys are like, nah, dude, we ain't gonna come to work. Peace. And they're like, what? And then he's getting hired literally from Microsoft. They're like, we're gonna go work for Microsoft then. Whatever he builds, well build. I mean, dude, that is just, I just think from a leadership standpoint, that is boss. Like,
Super boss.
what? Like, dude, a real boss. Like, 700 of your employees sit there. Almost all of them said, we're going to give up our families and their safety because we trust this man so much that he can build for us and really lead that well, that whatever he does, it's going to succeed, and we want to be a part of it.
My mother-in-law is like, why would they do this? I'm like, well, obviously they thought it was going to go a little different than it.
Yeah.
Like, obviously they thought the outcome was going to be different. Like, and it just goes back to the idea of like, it's just funny to think that, I don't know. You always think that there's this grandiose plan and people know exactly how things are going to happen and exactly how people will react to it. But at the end of the day, people are just like sending it. And I don't know, like most of these people in power don't really they're just guessing a lot of the time, like they're educated guessing, but they're guessing at the end of the day of what the reactions will be. And this is a prime example of it. Like they thought it was going to go different than it went, and it went bad.
Dude, imagine being in the boardroom. You're sitting there, right? And he's like he's now at the head. He's the CEO again, and you're like,
and you just ousted him 3 days ago. I've been looking for a new job.
But he's such a nice dude that I don't think. Do you think he's that vindictive a dude where I would love to hear I hope he comes on the Joe Rogan show and they sit there and they ask him this question: when you sat back down in the CEO, what was going through your head? Like,
how about them apples, bitches?
It's like that. What was that movie? He's like, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're cool, you're fired.
Yeah, what was that movie? I remember.
I don't know.
I'm sure that was how Elon, when he took over Twitter, was like, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're cool, you're fired, you're fired.
Pedro, I'm gonna send you one. This is one of the guys that got nuked when it all happened. He's the other one that got canned with Sam. I just sent it to you on Telegram.
Got it.
But his LinkedIn work history is software engineer at OpenAI, software engineer at WeWork, senior software engineer at Silicon Valley Bank, software engineer at FTX, and site reliability engineer at QB.
Bro.
He's the guy. He's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. He's cursed, dude. Oh my God.
Every single dude. Oh,
every
man.
You look at that. That is hilarious.
He thought he was good at OpenAI. He's like, dude, they're not gonna go under. Like, these guys are good. Like,
oh my God. Hilarious, man. So funny. And what happens with BNB now? I mean,
yeah.
Like yesterday, I was like, okay, I'm gonna swap out my BNB to ETH, and then CZ comes out and gave super bullish statement on the new CEO, and I'm like, okay, I'm going back to BNB. Go back to BNB, and then a couple hours later, the actual, I don't know, not the indictment, but whatever got unsealed with CZ, where it said that he had to pay the $175 million bond, and then BNB just took a dump, But I wonder what happens with BNB. Do we see new lows, or does it hold stable? I think it's really interesting to show that like the market didn't react like it would have 4 months ago. If CZ had done that, the market, we would have seen 15%, 20% movement in one day.
Yep.
But instead we saw like 5, which means we're so back, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, well, here's the thing though. So we're actually now starting to trend down. When you look, I'll show you here.
I don't have your charts up right now, Pedro. Give me a second. I'll put them back up.
The length this man will go to not use Microsoft
Right.
Teams. Yeah, because the Google thing, they're like, we hopped in the Google Meet. Did you see that? And then all the comments were like, wait, so you guys, Microsoft owns 50% of you, and you guys are all using Google Meet to do these meetings. Like, nobody wants to use Microsoft Teams. Not even Microsoft is so bad.
All right, Pedro, I got your charts back here.
No, man. So I'm looking at this here. So this big sell, like I said, like, and Brian, you nailed it pretty awesome. Like, dude, the amount of sell off that we should have seen these lows here, at least come down to here. And the fact that it responded, like, what was it? Maybe it was like 20%, 30%. It went from, 270 down to 230, right? So was that 40 points? Boom. So that's 20%, right? Like that's not like that's a normal day. Right, that's just like a big day in crypto. 20%, like just boom, 25% movement. So that's one of those things I sit there and go, well, that's it. That's impressive. So
Yeah, agree. And arguably some of that incoming volume that came in, that looks like some Binance volume, if you ask me. BNB, that looks like a little customer funds BTC to BNB swap on Binance.com.
I would think, but this man is such a straight up dude. I mean, he believes he's living in a simulation. He believes that he is his job is to do good. So I don't think that he, and he lives a very simple life. I mean, what was it? Somebody told me like his monthly nut that he needs to make is like $4,000 because what he lives off of. Like he's not like that's he's got a full family and wife and kids and he's doing decent, but I don't see him would put himself in jeopardy to buy up that to keep it from falling because I mean unless they openly said we're going to do a buyback. So I think this is people. I think this is legit. Maybe we should go through and check out the wallets that are coming and buying this, but it's a decent amount where like volume wise, like we had a sell off this morning and then now we're having a little bit of a comeback here where they're pushing the market back up and I'm sitting there watching like, and it's a decent amount of volume. I mean, here it is right here in comparison to like, a couple days ago where, we had less volume, right? Of people buying in on the market as it was coming up into these levels here. So again, like I'm impressed with just the community. Like Binance built a great community. They have a really strong community. And I think this is where there is the difference between Wall Street. And I forget what movie it was. What movie was it where it was with George Clooney and this guy calls up and about to kill him and says, hey, you guys have a bomb, XYZ, and you're all gonna die, and the guy goes, what? Right? And so do you know what movie I'm talking about or no?
No.
No. All right. Anyways, long story short, he gets everybody on the television because they're happening live. It's all happening live. And literally the guy goes through and literally gets everybody on TV to say, let's buy this back for this man so we can help him out, right? And it was like a 90, I think it was like $10, $12, and it only went up 1 cent, right? Like that's it. And that was it, right? And then it started plummeting after that. Like that is traditional finance, right? Like it's right, like just to a nut or to a detail. And crypto, it's a legit community, and we rally. I mean, you saw with what was it? The one, not Justin Sun. What's the other one? Why am I forgetting what it's called? I don't even know why today my brain is not wanting to work.
The stable coin crash.
Yeah. What's his name?
Luna. Do
Yeah,
Kwon.
Luna. Thank you, Do Kwon. Dude, there are still people who are diehard for Luna too, right? Like they're like,
I know it's the dumbest thing.
It is a community that I mean, and these people sit there like, no, we're gonna come back, we're gonna da. And I had a friend of mine who bought Luna when it bottomed out, right? Boom, and he was
I got a
up.
story about that.
Dude, he bought in. He put like, a couple $100 and then put another couple $100 and put another couple $100, right? And he put in $1,000, I think, altogether, and I think he got like $50,000, $60,000. And I told him, sell it. You want to buy a house? Sell it, bro. Sell it, please. Sell it. Like, I don't see this thing going up. Like, it's been completely. I said, sell it. Buy your house that you want to buy in the Bay Area, because this is not going to continue. He goes, but what happens if I can get $1 million? And I go, it's not. He goes, dude, are you checking out the community? Everybody's rallying and buying this. And I said, oh. So there's a difference. There's a difference between crypto and traditional markets. And I think that's promising to, i.e., let's say, I don't know, Jamie Dimon. He's like, he's got constant liquidity now, right? Like, these people, he can sell off his position and a XYZ coin, and he will have liquidity, because when that sells off, guess who's coming? The community will come and buy that coin. And so it's I think it's beautiful. It's an amazing thing, but it's also stupid.
I know. I've got a friend that bought the dip on Luna. He called me, and at the time he wasn't too well adversed in crypto, but he had made a bunch of money. And he's like, dude, I'm gonna buy the Luna dip with 10K. I'm like, that's a terrible idea. Don't do that. And he buys $10,000 worth of Luna, and like 3 hours later, it was worth like 9 cents. He got totally new. This is something I wanted to highlight, though. I'm looking at the CFTC original lawsuit from March on Binance. In Section 105, this is like damning stuff, man. I mean, what they got in trouble for was flat out, they should have got in trouble for it. Says that in 2020, they were facilitating illicit activity. For example, a Binance employee wrote to Lim and another colleague asking if customers whose recent transactions were closely associated with illicit activity, in quotes, and in quotes, over 5 million USD worth of his transactions were indirectly sourced from questionable services. And then they said he should be offboarded, or in the worst case, we would advise that user to make a new account. And then quoted in response, can let him know to be careful with his flow of funds, especially from darknet like Hydra. He can come back with a new account, but the current one has to go. It's tainted. I mean, dude, that's...
Man, there are things not to write, and that's one of them. Just don't put that in email.
And CZ's words, don't be so strict. Offboarding equals bad in CZ's eyes. Don't offboard people, And then one about Hamas, which at the time, I guess nobody really gave a shit about Hamas. But now that we're, where we are with the war in Israel, regarding Hamas transactions, Lim's colleague replied, you can barely buy an AK-47 with $600. And then, like, come on, they are here for crime. We see the bad, but we close 2 eyes. It's some stuff you just don't put in text, man.
Right. You only barely whisper that to someone, like, psst, 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 psst.
So you just don't even allow it. Like,
right. That's a good point, Dave. You don't do that in the first place.
Yeah, because I want to make sure, if in the future, like, we're ever brought, because, dude, we're in somewhere dangerous. We're in an area where it's like all of us are sitting in a paradigm that potentially could go very wrong, right? Like here in America, where we're sitting. I don't think it's going to, but if in case, right, like, things could go very wrong here, and the fact that we could be labeled as terrorists who do XYZ, right, by promoting certain things, right, sooner or later they may go after that. So with that said, I also put this in a scale of, if you're going to say stupid things, right, over text, right, you need to look at it with, okay, could I potentially go to jail for, even though this is an innocence, could I go to jail for this? Right? Could I go to jail for making fun of Yellen? Right? And listen, she's somebody's grandma. So, Miss Grandma, I respect you. I hope you're making a good dinner for Thanksgiving.
Pedro's really freaked out about this stuff.
And, but this is the honest to God truth right now, right? Like,
yeah.
So it's something. I'm not saying we walk a line or a toe, but it's one of those things that, dude, stupid. These are brilliant people, and they're just doing stupid things, not thinking things through.
Yeah, completely agree, dude. Here's another one, number 121 in the case. Binance's use of creative workarounds to its compliance controls is further documented July 17, 2020, and a chat with Lim clarified to a colleague, in quotes, "No, we cannot change their status to non-US if they are US. That's fraud. But we can encourage them to be a non-KYC account or use a VPN. Yes, can bypass limitations on non-KYC accounts such as withdrawal limits. Give a little hand that you guys can work something out. But to please be clear, we only do this for our biggest traders / VIPs. This is a all capitals special treatment." Like, dude, come on. Come on, brother. Come on.
And those words, those are the most expensive words known to man right now. Those words, $4 billion. That little phrase, $4 billion.
Yeah, and to be clear, it wasn't CZ that said this.
Right.
Yep. But that's the CEO. He is the CEO. Like, when you are the CEO, you are. It doesn't matter.
Well, they're going after their former compliance officers. I was just reading here something Lim, and he is not settled yet. I don't think
that's who is saying all this stuff,
right?
And the original lawsuit.
Do you think that the long haul of this, coin BNB, do you think it's going to last? Like, or do you? Because I thought, because I know a lot of the top 10 are not going to be around, right? The next bull run, potentially next 2 bull runs, right? There'll probably be Ethereum, but I was sure BNB was going to be there as well. I was like, I don't see it going away.
Yeah, I don't think BNB is going anywhere, man. And listen, I said back in March that I thought this whole thing would end with a huge payment in a lawsuit and some other actions inside Binance's structure. I didn't know CZ would resign, but I figured that this would get settled this way. I personally don't think that BNB goes away. I think that what happens is Binance maintains some of its market dominance. It's just it just looks a little different because of the way that they're set up now. But I think when you really zoom out, okay, and you think about the average crypto user, they want to store their money in Bitcoin or ETH. And if you actually want to transact crypto and send people money, you don't want to do that in ETH. It costs $30 to send USDT.
Right.
What's the next best options? You have USDT, BNB. TRC20, and BNB. And Tron is just a useless blockchain without the USDT. Tron is just useless to me, right? BNB is it, man. BNB is the best. It's the best. It's the most convenient. It's so fast. It's so cheap. It's awesome. It's backed by Binance. I don't know, man.
And not only that, but when you think about it from the enforcement perspective, that if they had really put the screws to Binance and totally F them, and it was a $20 billion fine and criminal and going to jail and arresting people in the company, the price of BNB would have tanked. I mean, it would have, and they could have ordered the whole thing to come to a halt, and they could say, well, in the rest of the world, we're going to ignore you, but they'd get to them eventually. But the price would lose confidence and it would tank. There's a lot of people in the U.S. invested in BNB. There's a huge ecosystem, as we all know, in the token business, not just tokens for meme tokens, but for all sorts of products that people have jobs on. There's an ecosystem that revolves around it. And I am more than certain that there's a couple of people in the SEC who are sitting there at the dinner table at home going, yeah, we're going to get these guys. And then the 14-year-old son goes, wait a minute, Dad. Now, I've got BNB here. I've got all my lawnmower money tied up in BNB, and you're going to send it to zero. Why are you doing that? And he, well, why are you using BNB? Are you funding terrorists? Like, no, here, watch. I've invested in this payroll company who's paying people in BNB now and stuff. And all of a sudden they realize the amount of people that have BNB just in the US, but also in Asia. I've been in a couple of projects in which when they got this we went from 1,000 holders to 30,000 holders. Almost all of them came from Asia, like Indonesia, and Korea, and all these places, and they were all like $100, $200 positions. They weren't big positions, and you send those investments to zero, and every time that happens, people get pissed. They get very pissed off when their investments go to zero. And if it's a rug puller, well, there's not much they can do. But if it's a country, the next thing you know, something bad happens, and you've established the next generation of jihadists, or at least not jihadists, and at least the next generation of people that when they get into a position of power are not going to be buying you're not going to buy U.S. treasuries. They're not.
Exactly.
For
sure. There's no reason to send BNB to zero, man. There's no reason to take Binance down. And I don't think the intention is to take Binance down. I don't think the U.S. government would have settled if they wanted to take Binance down. I think the intention was to get CZ out and
set an example.
Set an example and have Binance comply with the new regulatory environment. Also, all these things that they highlighted in this suit are many years old, right? The crypto market was in a different place in 2020. The whole world was in a different place.
Exactly.
I won't say the word, but we know what was going on. And it was the wild, wild west, man. Everyone was firing from the hip, brother.
The cerveza sickness.
Yes, exactly. Cervezas.
The cerveza sickness.
Previously, Slav Humble said Brian is the man. And now Slav is giving us the laughing face.
Hey, share us, brother. Share. We appreciate the stuff.
Hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe. I didn't say so. I think I turned on subscribers. You have to subscribe for a minute. So thank you, Slav, for subscribing. I appreciate it. My subscriber count is currently in the doldrums and it's not growing. Needs to grow. Need engagement.
We're growing. We're just slowly growing. We are climbing. It's just not jumping at hundreds a week.
Or 2 million a week like Mr. Beast.
Dude, Brian, have you seen this?
It's crazy, bro. 200 million subscribers now. He's what, 230 almost? I mean, it's crazy.
I don't even know, dude. So I've been following him about once a week, right? Go in and check him out. And let me pull him up here, man. This is nuts. So there we are, Mr. Beasts. All right. Oh yeah, he was 211, right? When we went on. When did we go on? The last time?
I don't know.
Was it like 4 days ago? 5 days ago? It was Friday, right?
Yeah.
Friday,
yeah, or whatever, Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, Thursday, Friday, a week, man. I've been following him now for about a month since he reached that 200 million. Dude, he's at 213 million. He's grown 13 million in a month.
Either that's just the most awesome thing ever, or that's the best bot network to have ever existed anywhere and ever will. I got 200 million bots and YouTube didn't figure it out.
Dude, YouTube is phenomenal at that. Like, we've talked about that, right?
They figured that shit out. Yeah, my one video went to thousands and thousands and thousands of views, and then it went back down to a few hundred. And then it slowly grew back up. But they were all organic. I mean, wasn't doing anything, but they just thought, hey, this is out of the ordinary, so they removed the views. And thankfully, they came back.
But they were real people.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Imagine getting 100 million views a video. I mean, his world most dangerous trap has 159 million, $1 car versus $100 million car, 174 million views. And he's also got the dub channels too. Yeah. You guys have ever seen his podcast where he talks about that? He dubs all his videos into other languages. So, I mean, he's getting hundreds of millions of views.
God, I never even thought about the dub channels too. I mean, imagine.
Yeah, he's got what's a super famous anime character in Japan that does his Japanese dubs. It's a woman. And she does not, I don't know if it's Goku, but it's like one of the most famous anime characters ever.
Dude, you know what's interesting? So I watch pretty much all his videos. I like it. I think he's entertaining. And I actually try to learn from him, right, as he's doing his videos. And one of the things I have to admit about when he's doing his videos is just how chill, like how comfortable he is doing it. Like, Like there is no flinch in him. Like he's like, this is just how it is. And I sit there in amazement because like at this point, like you would think, is this the end? Like when is this going to stop? You know, and I heard somebody was saying something about like the SEC, not the SEC, like the CIA, like he has so much power. If he decided like in the next few years to sit there and just say, you know what, I'm gonna create my own YouTube, just like he created his own product for his chocolate. If that gets big enough, man, he creates his own YouTube, and then how many like all the top people are working for him. I mean, they all the top people who create content, like they would love to be shouted out. You know, every time he shouts out people, they grow by 10 million, 15 million subscribers. If he started his own YouTube channel and decided he wanted to do XYZ and promote certain things, he very much could change the world overnight. I'm not gonna say overnight, but within a couple months, he's like, no, this is wrong. And he could create his own. I mean, with 200 million and him growing at least 1 million a day, I will say, let's say 500,000 a day. He's at a point now where like he could change policies. He could change world policies and say, this is what I don't like this. And I think that's impressive. And the CIA is now come around and is now talking to him going, if you screw up, we're going to kill you. We're not going to even just like play with you. Like
Allegedly.
Just call him up. This is a Jim over at the internet desk. You got to stop this, Mr. Beast. We're just going to kill you.
Allegedly in Minecraft.
Dude, like, I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, but I think he's got a lot of power.
Just imagine if CNN had 100 million viewers, or any news station had 100 million viewers. I mean, they battle over, when they complain that Fox News and Tucker Carlson had 1 million people watching them, of which most of the people couldn't remember they were watching them because they're like my grandfather and they watch the same episode over and over again. It would be new each time. But imagine if CNN actually had 100 million, or the BBC had 100 million actual viewers that view it and would talk about it like we are.
Yeah.
Crazy. Boys, I just got a queue over here. I got to leave. It's always nice coming in and hanging out with you.
Yeah, it's good. Thanks for hanging out, Brian. Appreciate it. Welcome anytime.
Yeah, I'll come back for sure. I know I have this permalink now, so I can just come in and drop in and bomb your guys' call whenever.
Thankfully, I have that approve button or not. No, but okay. I'll send you. That's a guest one. I'll send you a permalink that you can just warehouse, and then I won't have to reconfigure your entrance every time.
Sounds good, boys. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
All right. Adios.
Pedro, we ought to head to Vegas and go see the Sphere, buddy.
Dude, we do need to. We just need to go do something. Like we've talked about, like during the horror show thing, and like we just got to do something, dude. Like,
oh, I went to that, bro. That was a lot of fun. We'll talk.
Yeah. Oh snaps.
No, you're playing Mr. Beast stuff too long there.
Oh snaps. Oh no, they're gonna demonetize us. No.
I could just snip the. It may catch it. It may not. You never know. But if you do more than 3 or 4 seconds, it picks it up. And it wouldn't be such a big deal. But I had you on the big on a widescreen. But you and I are in the video, so it may not. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. It caught me once. I put in the other studio. I have the little TVs, and I put Major League Baseball scenes in it that was like a highlight reel.
Yeah.
And usually when I put things on those TVs, I slightly blur them. And I didn't do that. And that thing picked me up. It picked up that I was running just a little square that video by MLB Baseball, highlight reel number such and such. Please remove it. I was like, wow.
That's impressive. That's actually really impressive. Like, that's how good it is. Like that's big. That's big data stepping in, and like it's just impressive. I don't know. I think it is. I think it's just Uncle Sam looking over the shoulders potentially, right? Like, they go, because here's the thing, like as my project keeps growing, right? And as it keeps developing and keeps moving, right? It's going to hit certain points where the government's going to come knocking and go, okay, like what's up? we will have to work with the government. Like, we're legitimately going to have to work with the government going, okay, yeah, this is what's going on, and I, like, I'm not going to fight the US government. Like, it's like fighting a giant. It's like fighting a human being when you're an ant, right? It's like, you're a red ant, right? I might be able to sting you, but you know what? You just takes one little step to the left and I'm a dead man. So, like, how do you work that out, right? Anyways, yeah, it's that's kind of amazing how they can find, or just, that's how good their technology is, right? Like,
Yep.
YouTube sits there and goes,
Yeah, and it wasn't even audio or anything. It was just the movement in that little corner. You know what? I although I do have some supposition about what happened, because it was an episode in which I was talking about baseball. I hashtagged baseball, so I bet you the MLB content management system goes and looks for everything hashtagged MLB or baseball or something like that, and checks those videos in detail. So it wasn't just, there's the amount of video that gets uploaded every day. For them to be able to check a corner of one video, even automated, is an amazing compliment. But I bet you they limit that down by saying, okay, 1 million videos are uploaded today, but only 512 had a hashtag baseball. So let's just check those. And sure enough, I had content on it and had to go trim it out. I was like, man, they're good.
it's impressive. That is impressive. Really impressive. My biggest fear is that sooner or later they're going to come and start. Dude, and again, I'm on this kick right now, but if we say something negative about so-and-so or something that is not conducive to what they want said, like,
Oh, let's counterbalance that by, like, that Binance was so evil. We're so happy for Gary Gensler. He's the greatest guy ever. And that Janet Yellen, she is wonderful. She is just, I would love for her to just bake me a pie and bake like the great grandma she is. And that, now we've balanced it out. Now the algorithm gave us minuses, now pluses, and now we're nice and even.
There we go. There we go. As long as it's just, and it sounds silly, man, but it's just, that's just the, as we keep moving forward in America, I don't think they're going to allow certain aspects to be able to be said and done. You go to Canada, right? People can say bad things about Trudeau, right? And blatantly, right? Like, and they're not hauled in. Like, if you even say, yo, like, I'm going to take out Trudeau, right? Like,
ixnay on that, eh?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah,
you just violated the principle there.
Yeah, and I'm just as a joke. This wasn't a serious, right? But you could like potentially say something like this, right? And like they would, like, I don't think Canada would sit there and have the CIA come knocking on your door,
right?
That version of the CIA come knocking on your door, right? To go, yeah, we're gonna have to put you in prison. Sorry. Let's go. Like, yeah, we're gonna leave that alone. Anyways, I'm just saying, it's becoming a very hard, like, the ability to be able to free speech, right, is becoming.
I'm not so worried about it. I mean, if you make threats against somebody, that's one thing. But if you're just talking how you don't dislike policy and dislike what they're doing and all that, I'm not worried about that at all. Not even the slightest.
Yeah, there's a lot of policies I do disagree with immensely.
There's guys like Tucker Carlson out there who take every chance they get, besmirch everything the U.S. government does. And now he got fired from his job. Now he's making even more money than he was before.
Dude, ridiculous amount of money.
Twitter is paying him so much money right now. It's unreal. And not just under contract. His threads underneath his things generate huge sponsor and advertising money.
Brilliant. It's probably the best thing for him that he's ever done. I was watching something of his, like a little highlight, and it was only like maybe 2 minutes of a highlight that went over, and it was from another Twitter guy. And like, if you look at the Twitter, right, all of his other Twitter, you see maybe have 400 or 500, views and likes. His Tucker Carlson on his Twitter literally had like 15,000, 16,000 views. And I was just like, wait, what? I mean, I just wonder, how does that guy have? I don't think he's that entertaining, and his laugh annoys me, bro. Like,
Yep.
and I don't even understand how he gets how he has that much power. I just don't.
I don't know either, but there's I don't live in a state that is a red state, even though I tend to be a red leaning voter type things. I don't live in a red state, but my friends that live in red states, I gotta tell you, they're very passionate about that stuff. We'll just say that nicely. They're passionate about that, and that all those conspiracy theories are true and all that. And to be honest, a lot of them were true. And let's just say the passion is there, so the people support him. Even if he talks smack for 50% of his show, the other 50%, they're like, yeah, that's exactly right, and it's that guy's fault. It's not my fault. It's that guy's fault. It's that guy's fault. It's that guy's fault. So he can just make up shit for half his show, and or 3/4 of it, and he says, 15 minutes of decent stuff. That's what gets out on social media, and people are like, he's a genius. Meanwhile, he said 45 minutes worth of crap.
It's like when you look at The Simpsons, right? People always go, "Oh, they're like it's a way to be able to gauge." So I went through and I went and looked. So I was watching, I forget who I was, but they mentioned The Simpsons and how Kamala Harris was predicted, right, to be a like the president of something like that, right? They were talking about that, and I was sitting there, and they predicted, Donald Trump. And they said, after this, we should see this, right? And so they were saying, we see Kamala Harris as potential president. So I went through and looked at what was actually going on with like The Simpsons and that TV show. And it was actually not even, like, it wasn't even correct. But like 90% of what is said on The Simpsons is just crazy talk.
Yep.
But people take out like that 10% and go, they're geniuses.
They predicted it.
Yeah, and you're like, no, bro. A clock is right twice,
Right, exactly. Every day a dead clock, a broken clock is.
Yeah. So it's anyways, yeah, it's kind of crazy for me. Any current news that's actually going on with Binance that we know of?
No, but I did want to, right before Brian came on, I had you bring up the Solana chart, and I just want to play. I'm going to play something for you. This is a project I've been following that wasn't a. I'm not going to say anything that. All I'm going to say is a project I was following in the BNB sphere, and they had developed some trading algorithms that they had a DEX, they had some trading algorithms, and all this type of stuff in which they were going to, pool everybody's money and then trade it, and then everybody gets a percentage of the profits back, It was a good deal, but then the president, the guy that organized, it hadn't started yet. The guy that organized the whole thing had to step down because it turned out he was a criminal and had been in the joint for selling. He was a pharmacist selling fentanyl and opioids not fentanyl, but opioids out the back door of the pharmacy. And finally, the audit caught up with him, and he went to the joint. And I believe he was also addicted to it, so he was doing whatever he had to do. So they got rid of the CEO. Rejiggered everything, and like, all right, they're back and all this kind of stuff. And then they started their trading, and it was, and I didn't have any, I had asked somebody else about it. I was like, I'm not sure about this. And they're like, nah, I wouldn't do that if I was you. So I was like, okay, I won't do that. So I only had $17 in it. That was like the dust left over in a wallet. And every day I was getting a few cents. I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. And it turned my $17 into about $18.50. And I was like, wow, I was thinking about, well, maybe I should put some money in this now and all that. And then, as they say on the when you watch the VH1 channel about rock stars and how it's all good, and then the music changes and that talks about bad things come on. I'm going to see if, tell me, oh, Pedro, I don't know if you should be able to hear this. You should be able to hear this when I play this. This is the beginning of the AMA they just had. Let's see, let me make sure it's on here.
So the aim of this evening, as you will have seen in the previous pin message, is to give you all a bit of feedback as to where we are at, both in terms of VFX, the company, VFX, the token,
and Pulse.
This is how an AMA doesn't want to start. This is the best. This phrase.
I'll get straight to it. The news that you're going to hear tonight is not good. The news that you're going to hear tonight is probably going to be quite shocking and probably disappointing to many of you as well. But we felt that it was necessary for us to hold this AMA and update you, because I know many of you have had questions in the last couple of weeks. So first of all, first important piece of news.
All right, I stopped it because the rest of it is just talking about the problem. But imagine what happened is they stopped trading on this thing and said, "Oh, we've been hacked for $85,000," and then so we got to figure that out. And then they said, "Oh, we're not going to probably come back to January." And then all of a sudden they had an AMA and said it started out with that. The news is even worse. And what happened was, if you pull up the Solana chart, can you bring that one?
I have it up.
Oh, you do? Okay,
Yep.
so zoom in current, like so you can see the pump what happened. What happened is that however they lost money, this $85,000, whatever, they had a total of about $500 and some $1,000. They lost $85,000 in contract dev running off with the money or something, whatever it is, even though they were KYC'd. As it turns out, their AI was mostly invested in, their bots were mostly tracking Solana, because Solana had good volume, good volatility, and on the exchange they were using, it had deep liquidity pools, so it was a good decision for that. But in order to, they put some big trades on to see if they could make some of their money back, betting against Solana, right before where it starts to go up there, and
right here.
I can't see your mouse. Oh yeah, right where your X is. Yeah, right there. After it pumped a little bit and then started to wane just a touch, they said, all right, it's going to correct. And their AI was telling me it's going to correct and all this type of stuff. But what they didn't count on was
Look at all the SMAs, bro. There's no way it was going to correct.
Right.
SMAs.
And not only that, but the Solana conference was going on, in which not only the Solana Foundation, but a lot of their ecosystem partners were announcing all this new good stuff. So they were looking at AI and the technicals and everything, but the fundamental, when news comes in, it tosses your chart analysis to hell.
I also want to add on real quick with that, because remember, there are different types of technical analysis. Like there are different forms of fundamentals, right? Looking at the market, like I was looking, I said, you know what, we're seeing it go down here, but we're seeing good volume, and as we're going down, we're seeing a lot less volume step in. So we should see the market kind of go up here because of what we're seeing with this. So for me, once we went right here and we had 3 real candles with decent volume and hardly any candles with volume coming down as we're going down, to me, my technical analysis, we're going up. And there's no supply wicks until we at least get to here.
Right.
So we're talking like that. You could have caught a 21 to 29. You know what I'm saying? It's a 50% move of its market. Anyways, it's just to make sure we understand that, because there's different.
Right. No, but all this good news came about Solana, and it started pumping. And so these guys quickly got upside down in their trading. And in one day, when they basically said we were down $55,000. And then when we woke up in the morning, we were down $255,000.
How do you? What are your safety mechanisms?
Where's the stop order? Where's the stop loss?
Yeah.
Well, nobody got a good. If you listen to that whole AMA, you don't get a really good excuse for that. You get that they weren't using stop losses, and because the algorithm was watching it and trading, and also then the exchange missed an order. They didn't understand their every exchange has different rules for when you, and this was in the futures, obviously in the futures markets. So when you're trading futures, there's different rules than trading spots and how much you're allowed to do and all this type of stuff. And if you have a big position on something, that doesn't mean you can take a big opposite position of it, because you may not have enough margin available. You know, that each trade sits on its own sometimes the aggregated, depending on how you did the trades. And so they didn't have a stop loss order in. And so they basically had to sell at a $200 and some odd thousand loss, and they lost $322,000 of the $500,000 that people put into it in basically 2 or 3 days. And
Oh my goodness.
I know, and they were like, for a month or for a month and a half, they were making like, 0.02% per day, 0.8%, just enough, in the from start to finish, they had, in the total time they were open, they probably had made 10%, which is good for a short amount of time. That's fine in an automated bot. That's very acceptable with low risk.
Yeah.
But they screwed it up, this is just I say this in the spirit of rugged, ruined, and wrecked. Is that even when you go to Vegas or you go to anywhere to gamble and you play roulette and you bet on red, and it comes up black, you double down, and it comes up black again, and it double down again. It comes up red, and you've won your money back and you break even. Since it's black and red, eventually you're gonna get your money back. Except the theory of large numbers works against you, that eventually that wheel's gonna hit green. Mm-hmm. and or you're gonna run into the first time, the 1 in 2,000 times that it happens, 13 blacks in a row. It happens. I've watched that, and by the time you've doubled down, you run out. You're out of money, and you can't double down anymore. You lose, and that's the next spin is when it's red, and you would have won. But just like in investing here, the time that you're at your weakness is when the thing pumps. Like the first time they made a mistake, Solana pumps 240%. It takes all of your money. Imagine that. But that's what it's like in crypto, and not just crypto, in investing. It's no different. Like, you watch a baseball game, and the game's going all right, and teams battling it, it's going back and forth, and then one team makes an error. And even though each play is independent from either one, just like in gambling, each bet is independent from the last one, that error is going to cost them. And sure enough, all of a sudden it starts the run in which the team score, instead of getting an out and the inning over, the team scores 9 runs in that inning. And that's just what it's like in this crypto, in this company, and its investors. And I played their name on the recording, but I won't besmirch them too much. They're trying to right the ship. But the time they made a mistake, it cost them everything, and they have to shut down.
The thing is, it didn't have to, because obviously they were trading way too much leverage, right? Like, they shouldn't. If you had that amount of money, $50,000 or $500,000, you should not have been trading $50,000 of your position. Okay, that 10% on one position is silly. You should have been you should have been trading on 1% of that. 1 to 2% of your trade should have been long or short. And then additionally to that, when you start to have losing trade after losing trade, more than 3 trades that are losing, you need to pull back, reevaluate, and you need to be able to sit there and engage. I mean, this is literally kind of what I'm doing right now, right? Like, I'm literally building an algorithm to do this, right? But I've had 20 years of experience. So obviously, like I've had the ebbs and flows, right? I get it. Like, and you can't be monolithic on a smaller time frame to gauge which way the market wants to move or which way it doesn't want to move. Because once you start to get tunnel vision, your whole entire mindset becomes, as a trader, garbage. So you cannot hold on to something. If, like, the primary thing that I learned, don't lose money. Like, that's it. Like, don't lose money. Right? Like,
wow, Pedro, you have some great advice there.
but I'll put it like this, because it's one of those things that is, it's a fundamental thought. Like, if you're trading on dopamine, and I hate to say it, but they had the ability to sit there and hit off, and they should have never over leveraged. Like, that was just stupid. Like, if you make 12% off of 2% a day, 2 or 3%, that equates to 10 to 20% annually, and you're going to get runners. Like you're going to get a runner where, like, imagine. I'm sorry, I'm being.
No, I got you. I'm agreeing with
Okay.
you. I
So,
go on these things too. You go right ahead.
yeah, like look here. All right, you have this. You start to trade, but once you press this point right here, you start closing above highs. Like you said, it was the third day that they said it would turn around. No, dude. After that second day close, you should have changed your bias. You should have looked at the daily bias and said it's probably going to go up because we're close higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, lower highs, lower lows.
Yeah,
And that's most likely. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say when you listen to the whole AMA, people were asking questions. They're like, "Well, why, what?" You know, all the questions that you're answering right now, they're asking, and then people are like, "Well, we goofed it up." You know, and
you didn't know trading. They
Right.
didn't know trading. They understood coding. They did an algorithm that did decent when you're in a sideways market. Okay, where you can get higher highs and higher lows, but they didn't understand the true understanding of the market, which is basically it's people.
And not only
And
that,
so
but when you start on a new exchange, you don't start at big numbers where you could run into order issues and not understanding how their order system works for larger numbers. You start smaller. You say, all right, the first 60 days, we're only going to trade $10,000. You're not going to really make much return, but our potential loss is $10,000. You know, and then then okay, that's good. We're going to 20. Then okay, we're going to 40. You know, then you make some money too, and you put some in an insurance reserve fund, and then you know, and then you build up, and then you start running into those execution errors at lower levels or at errors that places that you can manage them. You don't just turn on a fucking AI and say, oh, let it go, and then oops, there was an error overnight. We're down $280,000.
Bro, so I'm talking with my coder, right? And we're talking about certain things. And I'm sitting there and I go, what if we have a major, like what you talked about is actually what we talked about a couple days ago, right? And I said, what is it if we run out of liquidity and we can't get out of position? What's going to get us? And he goes, well, we could play another exchange where we can play the opposite. And I said, you know what? That's good. Like to be able to sit there and say, all right, we're in this position. We can't get out until liquidity comes in. We need to be able to transfer other money. And again, because you're only trading with 1 to 2% of the portfolio, not 10 or 20% of the portfolio. Okay, it doesn't hurt as bad, and because here's the key: it's mitigating. Your whole entire job is to mitigate risk, not make alpha. Like, and I know that sounds weird of trading, right? But you want to make sure that because crap happens, 9/11 happens, COVID happens. You know what I'm saying? Like life changes. But if you can establish, okay, we have an edge here, there's an arbitrage here that we can take advantage of the market. Let's on a smaller time frame build this up, right? And then as it grows, and that's the other thing, how do they not understand the order routing system? Because you should already have known about that. You should have called and said, if I have X amount and you have this amount of liquidity, will you back me up? Will you funnel me liquidity? They should have reached out to that exchange and said, like, this is the circumstance. If I need to get out of this, will you, what do they call that? OTC? No, that's the wrong
word. Good till cancel.
Yeah. But it's not just good to cancel. It's, where you go underneath and you go into the open market and you buy back that position that you were going through with the exchange.
Yeah,
right? Like that's the entire
OTC.
Yeah. But it's open market, but not in like on the chart.
Right.
It's not the chart that you're trading. It's the like you go to the exchange and say, look, this position we can't get out because of liquidity. We're about to have a run, and if we go negative, you go belly up.
Yep.
Because you got to take that other side, right? And so you need to make sure that I have this. And they say, okay, cool, we'll make sure, right? You have that agreement, you have a contract agreement. Okay, this is what's up. Or you make another agreement with another larger XYZ and say, look, we're open a hedge fund. This is what we're doing. This is what we're looking to do. what can you guarantee? Because the thing is, they make money on the transactions. They don't make money on the any positions that I do, right? Like they don't care about it. They just want to make sure that there's more than enough transactions. So you sit there and you play that in. That's why we have people like Jim Cramer in the traditional markets, right? Who literally, he gives the fodder to the hedge funds, right? So that they can sit there and take the opposite end and get out of a position. So I don't even know why I'm saying all this. I just got mad. I can't believe they screwed you over like that.
I didn't get screwed over. I took my money out of it because I didn't think, it's one of those things where a bunch of guys sitting around aren't gonna.
You're breaking up pretty bad.
Hold on. I was just saying that one of those things is that a bunch of guys sitting around coming up with a thing aren't gonna beat Citadel and beat the markets, that kind of stuff. Maybe for the short term, which they did for a month or 6 weeks. But then it's the futures markets. And if you're playing just the futures markets, 90% of futures accounts blow out. I mean, it's a fact. I think it's higher than I think it's like 95% they blow out. And that's why futures markets can pay on leverage, because they make a ton of money on people blowing out, especially with the way exchanges manipulate the market, and they, before they want to sell, they buy a lot to blow out the longs, and then they sell, or the other way around, whatever it is.
They're not, but they can't. Here's the thing: in traditional markets, they can't do that, right? Like
right. I'm just talking about, crappy future or crypto exchanges. Pedro, we've been going at it here all morning here, and I'm gonna have to get going.
That's all good. It's all good. How many views did we get so far today?
Between different platforms, right around probably 60.
Nice. Right?
Yeah. I mean, this morning's plus now. LinkedIn. Everyone's on vacation today, pretty much. So not a lot going on LinkedIn earlier. But we had some good YouTube views. I guess probably LinkedIn, a total of 20 amount of people. So maybe if we had 60, I'd be happy. And we had a lot of good comments. We had Brian come on today. That was excellent having him on. And it'll be good to have him on more often too.
That's huge, man. I look at that and I go, that's huge. I think that's huge. I mean, like we were talking about prior before we came on, like those long form, even though people don't necessarily like it, we excel on long form. I've noticed,
yeah, we do.
right?
We can just keep going.
and we're entertaining. That's the thing. Like you start to, like the half an hour mark, me and you start to get going, and then people start engaging with us. And so I started going through going, we're better long form, And then the thing is, if people keep watching and popping in, people subscribe and before it. So I mean, potentially, like I said prior, and you guys let us know, whoever you listen to, would you be sitting there? Would you play us in the background if we started just talking about, news, potential news popping up in crypto, and we, like we could get 300-400 people, 500 people who would watch us daily, comment, on YouTube. That would pay the bills. That would pay the bills.
That would pay the bills for sure.
$5,000-$6,000 both ways. By you guys listening to us, connecting with us, almost like the old-fashioned, like you'd be working and out in the, when I was in the military, you sit there and have somebody playing on the radio.
Yeah, we had the AM radio on in Cincinnati. We had the local major radio station on because they covered the Cincinnati Reds and the news and. When I worked somewhere else, we had Chicago station on, that type of stuff. I have the crypto station. That would work. Pedro, we got to end it here. I got to get going. I got to actually do family stuff. The kids home from university, from daughter's off of school, and they're awake and needing errands to be done. So I'm the guy, and I don't get to see them that much. So I'm off there. I spent all my morning with you, Pedro, and with the viewers out there. Thank you for watching and engaging today. Thank you, Pedro, for your conversation and guidance and correcting us back that we don't want to have Janet Yellen come back and have us whacked.
My stupidity talking about other things.
Right. And it kept me from talking about Orange Hair Man today, so that was good.
Good job.
And And hopefully we'll see this the good news in the market continue so that it brings viewers back. Because when there's a bull run, it brings the viewers back to crypto shows for sure. But that's all I got today. Pedro, thanks again. Once again, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Striking here in the digital media land. And I was happy to be here with Pedro and Brian today on DYOR Live. So everyone, have a great day.
You guys do.